What's up? Ghost Fictions is here, and we're back again. This is the first part of a story where Issei was the son of the legendary Dark Knight Sparda. Issei Hyoudou was just a typical perverted high school student as the pawn of Rias Gremory, as well as this generation's Red Dragon Emperor, at least that's who he thinks he is. A week after the defeat of Riser Phenex, Isay and the rest of the orc notice how Rias has been acting differently, which concerns Isay greatly. One night after finally obtaining his first contract, he believes this might help bring Rias back to the person that everyone knows, but something went terribly wrong. When Isay was about to show her his progress, he saw and heard something that would not only break his heart, but also his spirit. Upon seeing his host in this state, Ddraig decides to remind Isay of his past, so that he could keep moving forward. Now being fully awakened, Isay sets out to start a new life in a different world to obtain his peace and quiet. But gaining his peace and quiet will not be as easy as he might think, since this new world has problems of its own, and the past will always come back to haunt him. But nevertheless, if Isay knows anything, it's this: devils never cry. But before we start, please consider subscribe to the channel for more awesome contents. Now, let's get into part 1. 2 millennia ago, before the fall of the Archangel Lucifer Morningstar, there was a war between the supernatural world and the underworld, but someone from the underworld woke up to justice and stood up against this legion alone. His name was Sparda, and after intense battle fighting off his demonic brethren and defeating the demon king Mundus, he was able to seal away the demon realm from the rest of the underworld, but at a cost. Later he quietly reigned over the human realm to preserve harmony until his death. He became a legend, the legendary Dark Knight Sparda. At least that's how the story goes, but some legends never truly die, only passed on. Time skip. 2014 years later. Underworld, outside a large barrier. Near the lowest depths of the underworld, a large-scale battle was being waged, the battle having been going on for 3 months straight with no end in sight. The battle could be felt throughout the entire underworld, and even parts of other realms of different pantheons. The shockwaves of this battle have gotten so intense to the point that many of its residents escaped to the human realm in order to avoid the sowing chaos, but it did little to no effect, since the battle caused earthquakes throughout various parts of the human world. But those who stayed wanted to see what was causing such destructive force, only to find a barrier surrounding the ongoing battle, as if whoever cast it didn't want the battle to be disturbed. Right outside the barrier stood 2 people who were trying to examine the barrier, trying to figure out who casted the barrier and who was inside there battling. The first person was a handsome man who seems to be in his early 20s. He has shoulder-length crimson hair and blue eyes. Serious: I had just finished evacuating my family to the human realm, but sadly I'm afraid the human world is faring no better than the underworld. Ajuka, please tell me you have something. Ajuka nods. No searches, even with me using all of my techniques on top of me using my Kankara formula combined, I have not been able to even crack, let alone breach this barrier. But I do know at least one of the beings that is inside this barrier which is causing all of this destructive force. Ajuka is a bewitchingly beautiful and attractive young man appearing in his early 20s, with light blue eyes and green hair that is slicked back. He is considered to be the smartest person within the Devil faction, and even questionably among the 3 factions themselves, though this barrier he was currently trying to crack both intrigued and infuriated all the same, since he wanted to know who was the being who could have made such a powerful barrier to be able to keep someone like him out. Searches. Serious: who is inside the barrier? Ajuka eyes narrowed. The demon king, Mundus. This made Searches, who considered the strongest devil surpassing even the original Lucifer, widen his eyes in fear and shock, since he couldn't believe that the legendary demon king was inside the mysterious barrier battling someone. But the main question that Crimson Mayu had on his mind was who he was fighting. Who could this being could last in a fight with a being such as Mundus, who could rival Shiva the Destroyer for this long. But before Searches could respond to Ajuka's statement, he was interrupted by a person who he was a bit surprised to see here. Size: man, we really got ourselves in a pickle here, don't we? The person in question was a tall man appearing to be in his 20s with an average build, black hair, golden bangs and black goatee. He also possesses 12 jet black feathered wings. He wore a V-neck maroon long coat with a wide open high collar that opened up at the hem. The long coat also featured 2 black belts around the waist and 4 black bands on each arm, 2 of the bands at the wrist and the other 2 near the elbow. He wore gray slacks and brown shoes. Searches. Serious: Azazel, I'm surprised that you are here so close to devil territory. Azazel. Serious: well, let's not forget that this barrier and the battle is not only affecting the devil territory. My faction are completely scared shitless about the amount of power that is being released inside this barrier. Hell, even Cockabale is sweating bullets, and he's a fucking warmonger. I would have thought he would get a complete boner that there was an epic battle happening inside this barrier. I also just received word from Mitchell that even heaven is being affected by this battle, and everyone is in a complete frenzy since they could feel this monstrous all the way from there. Bajuka. Eyes narrowed, which would mean that if even heaven feels the raging battle that is going on here, then no doubt that other pantheons are also feeling the effects of this battle. I'm honestly surprised that not every pantheon hasn't shown up yet. Surziches. Serious, they most likely think that this is a devil and fallen angel matter and don't want to feel they are trespassing and possibly start another war, either that they are honestly more afraid of this battle than we are. Azazel. Serious, still I would have expected that maybe Hades and the other gods of death underworld would show up since they would no doubt believe disturbing their realm. Bajuka. Serious, I don't know about the underworld deities, but I would think Hades is most likely waiting this out since he possibly believes that one of these beings might take us out in the crossfire. Surziches. Thinking, what about Ereshkigal? I mean, I would have thought she would intervene or act since this battle might result in the complete obliteration of the underworld. Bajuka. Serious, actually just a little while before you arrive Ereshkigal sent her top reaper as a messenger. At this both Surziches and Azazel were completely shocked since they both knew who exactly Ajuka was talking about. This reaper was more powerful than both Thanatos and Pluto put together and has the power to rival or even surpass Hades himself. Surziches. A bit nervous, so what did he say? Bajuka. Serious, essentially he said that everything will be alright and that soon this battle will be over, at least that's what I believe what he said, since we all know his way of speaking is very old-fashioned. Azazel. Thinking serious, but this also means that Ereshkigal most likely knows who's fighting Mundus in there. Bajuka. Serious, my thoughts exactly, but hardly doubt it's her and her reapers, since all of them together wouldn't even be enough to even scratch Mundus. Surziches. Serious, which means that someone else who is not affiliated with her or possibly with the underworld is currently fighting Mundus. Azazel. Curious, thinking about going up to Ereshkigal to see what she knows. Surziches. Serious, even I'm not that foolish or arrogant to demand an audience with the true queen of the underworld. Gently caresses his neck, especially if I had to face him again, then I would be essentially asking for my own death. Azazel. Curious, oh yeah, I did hear about you challenging him during the Devil Civil War, thinking you could make him serve and help your faction win. But you were just a kid when you tried doing that. Surziches. Serious, with his eyes closed, yes, an arrogant and spoiled child who thought he could take on anyone just because he had immense demonic power, surpassing the original Lucifer and with power of destruction. But fighting him changed everything, it had broken me completely, but it helped me become both the man and devil king I am now. If it wasn't for Ereshkigal stepping when she did, I wouldn't be alive right now. Even now with my current strength, I don't think I would be able to defeat him. Azazel. Serious, I see and can't deny your logic about going up to Ereshkigal. I mean, let's be honest here. The underworld is really her home, and all of us are just tenants living under her roof, even Hades, and the underworld gods can't deny that logic. Surziches. Serious, probably why we haven't seen any of the other underworld gods or reapers showing up. Azazel. Sigh. Serious, but anyway, the reason why I came here is because I found out who casted the barrier. Bajuka. Curious, who? Azazel. Serious, I found out through Fafnir that the person that casted this barrier was no other than the Apocalypse Dragon, Great Red. This shocked the two Mayu, since they couldn't believe the barrier in front of them was created by the true Dragon of Dreams, as well as the most powerful being in all of existence. This made them believe that the being that Mundus was fighting was Great Red, but they quickly shook that idea out their head since it didn't fit Great Red's personality. Great Red never involved himself with anything unless it involved either Office, who is the dragon god of infinity, so for him to be battling Mundus wouldn't make sense unless Mundus himself either threatened or angered the legendary dragon in some way. This led to the conclusion that whoever was fighting the Mad Demon King must have support from the legendary Dragon of Dreams, to which if they could meet this person and hopefully form some kind of alliance. Though Azazel couldn't help but feel that he recognized one of the energy signatures within that barrier, since he felt that presence before, but it was not only faint, but it was also tainted. The leader of the fallen angels couldn't help but narrow eyes in suspicion of who this person might be. Azazel, mind. Eyes narrowed, is it possible? But he was supposedly dead for a while now. Could it be actually you, Sparda? Meanwhile, inside the barrier. Within the confines of this crimson barrier, a 3-month battle was being waged, but to most people's opinion, it would look like a full-on war being waged inside, given the amount of destruction being caused to the surrounding area, as well as the amount of dead demon bodies being laid to waste. In the middle of said battlefield was a battle between two individuals who were demonic in nature. Each of their clashes was enough to completely shake the ground around them, not knowing that they were also affecting the 9 infinite realms of the underworld, as well as the human world and other pantheon realms. After their last clash, the being backed away from each other, revealing themselves of who they were. The first demon was a gigantic living statue of an aging, muscular, bearded man with enormous feathered wings, closely resembling the god of the Bible. The statue has a circular depression in his chest, where an eye-like core is located. This was Demon King Mundus, who was able to break free from the seal that Sparda placed on him just a few years ago, and since then he has been regaining his lost strength and sowing chaos within the underworld in order to reap it for himself in the crossfire and continue on his path for world domination. The second demon was smaller in size and had a red reptile-looking appearance to his arms and legs. His head seems to produce spiky edges, there are cracks on his chest, and his coat is a pair of curled-up semi-chiropteran wings, with each divided into 3 segments. In his hands he was dual-wielding 2 swords, both demonic in nature. The red demon was wielding what seemed to be like a giant curved blade with a thick organic hide, the curved blade, and the color scheme of its guard. However, the sword has an organic-looking spinal column, instead of the one that appeared mechanical, with some bony covers below its guard. Its larger red jewel has moved to the side, and a green one is now below it on one hand. On the other hand, he was wielding a massive longsword with a heavy double-edged blade, notched on both sides near the tip. The pommel splits open into several spikes. The grip is plain, but the guard is skeletal, with a skull design on each side, leading to the rib cage from which the blade emerges. On one side of the blade, the skull is that of a human, while the other uses a horned demon skull. The cross guard is that of a screaming skull. Both demons were heavily damaged, even to the point that their healing factor wasn't enough to completely heal their wounds, and were panting heavily, since both of them were nearing their limit. Even though the red demon was clearly outmatched, his undying will and motivation to kill the Demon King did not allow him to give up or be killed. It paid off, since these last 3 months, the red demon was able to weaken Mundus bit by bit, to the point that even the legendary Demon King was at his limit. Mundus breathes heavily, smirks darkly. I must admit, son of Sparda, to think you have lasted this long. I would have thought after our last encounter, you would have given up on all hope in defeating me. Breathes heavily, glares at daggers at Mundus. I made a promise to avenge my family and reclaim the power you took from me. Mundus. Serious, the power that was originally mine to begin with. Serious, it may have originally been yours, but I received that power due to my mother, whose blood still flows through my veins. Mundus smirks darkly. HMPH, I must admit, even without it you have indeed become quite powerful since our battle has started. Even though you are essentially an abomination, I still could see value in you at my side. Growls in anger. Mundus smirks darkly. I offer you this, son Sparda, join me, and I shall give you everything that you ever wanted. I can not only bring back your mother, but to help sweeten the deal, I will even go as far bringing back your. But before the legendary Demon King could finish his sentence, a large wave demonic energy burst out of the red demon that destroyed the area around him and even knocked Mundus himself off his balance. When Mundus saw the demon again, his red eyes glowing with fiery fury with both of his blades pointing straight at him, it was then the red demon roared his fury to the Demon King. Roars with absolute fury. Don't you dare say his name. You have no right to say his name when after what you did. You took away his chance at life, and for that alone I will never forgive you. Mundus. Serious. HMPH, it would seem that negotiating is futile. Very well then, the Sparda bloodline ends here. But that being said, the two beings with beyond lighting speed began their final clash to end this once and for all. Mundus prepared his giant fist to intercept the red demon, who saw this coming, in which he summoned a copy of himself in order to take the hit. Once the doppelganger took the hit, the original red demon jumped on top of his copy and ran along the side of the arm of Mundus, all the while rapidly slashing the limb, which was able to cut through the tough stone-like exterior and damaging the flesh hidden beneath. Mundus, feeling the immense amount of pain that the swords were doing to his body, he took his other hand in order to try to swat the red demon like the bug he was. But just as his hand was about to crush the red demon, the demon in question slid under his hand, all while stabbing both swords from behind and latched onto the side of Mundus's thumb. Once the red demon knew that he had securely latched onto Mundus, he performed a backflip using both handles of the swords for support and landed on the palm of the other hand while ripping off both swords from the thumb, which resulted in the Demon King to wail in great pain. It was then the red demon speeded along the other arm, continued to do the same and rapidly slashed the arm of the Demon King. As Mundus saw the red demon speeding towards him, he figured that the red demon was aiming for his head for him to impale. The Demon King quickly covered his face with his damaged arm, not knowing that was what the red demon was hoping for. Once the red demon was near the shoulder of the Demon King, in a split fraction of a second changed the position of his foot that was felt by Mundus, making him concerned on what this demon was about to do. But before Mundus could counteract the demon's intentions, It was too late, putting all of his strength into his legs, the red demon became like a speeding bullet that impaled Mundus' chest, causing the colossal demon fall backwards. But the red demon knew it wouldn't be enough to help finish off a demon like Mundus, even though weakened his regenerative abilities still surpassed. Of that Phoenix's family of immortality enhanced, he used a spell that would help deal with that regeneration. Roars cried. Mundus. Eyes widen in shocked what? It was then black flames erupted from the blades and began pouring inside the body of Mundus, not only damaging him, but also negating his regeneration. Once Mundus's body fell to the ground, causing shockwaves throughout the battlefield. Completely defenseless, the red demon climbed the body of the fallen demon king until he reached to where his third eye would be located. Mundus. Coughs out blood, confused. Wah, what are you doing? Serious and cold. I told you that I would be reclaiming what was mine. It was then making both of his swords disappear. The red demon raised his hand showing claws, in which he dug into Mundus' third eye, which the demon wailed in pure absolute pain. Mundus. Roars in pain. Ah. Serious, almost have it. After a few minutes of digging around inside, the red demon found what he was looking for when he removed his hand from inside the demon king's head, and his palm was a crimson blood and black orb. Once the orb was in his hands, the red demon implanted the orb into his left eye, and thus a large surge of demonic power was injected into him. Upon seeing this bastard stealing his power once again, Mundus furiously got up, causing the red demon to gracefully back away from the rising demon king. Mundus. Furious, you damn half-breed. You will pay for stealing my power. I will make you suffer 1,000,000 times than your mother, as I make you watch everyone you love be tortured and violated in front of your very eyes. Serious, it's over, Mundus. You are far too weak to stop me after that last attack, and with me reclaiming the left eye and the power it brought with it, I finally have enough strength to end you once for all. Mundus. Eyes narrowed in anger. Don't get cocky, boy. Serious, Ddraig, do you have it in you to aid me one last time? It was then a green gem appeared on the red demon's left demonic arm, and out spoke a voice that was filled with power and determination. This was the voice of Ddraig, the Welsh dragon of domination, and one of the 2 heavenly dragons that was feared among demons, devils, and gods alike. Ddraig. Smirk with determination. Of course, partner, I'm not out of this by a long shot. Smirks. Alright, let's do this. Ddraig. Roars Welsh dragon balance breaker. It was then a gigantic pillar of crimson flames engulfed the red demon, and once the flames died, what stood was a red dragon armor with green jewels covering the body with 2 retractable dragon wings on the back. This was the manifestation of the Welsh dragon's power, the boosted gear scale male. Mundus. Laughs darkly. How cute. But do not think that just because you have the power of the Welsh dragon on your side does not mean you will win, because not even he will not be enough to defeat me. It was then one of the green gems on the armor glowed, and out spoke Ddraig, who spoke with pride and confidence against the demon king. Ddraig. Smirks. Do not be fooled, Mundus, although I was sealed away thanks to your brother, but not he knew the full extent of mine and Albion's strength. But now me and my partner here will gladly show you not only why just your brother, but every god that dares to truly underestimate the power of a dragon. Mundus. Eyes narrowed while growling in anger. I'm nothing like that pathetic excuse of a brother of mine. Ddraig. Serious, we shall see. Are you ready, partner? Serious. Born ready. Ddraig. Serious. Alright, together now. Ddraig. Serious. I who shall awaken. It was then that a huge wave of draconic energy began to erupt from the armored figure that once again shockwaves throughout the battlefield. It was then both the red demon and Ddraig spoke as if they were one, which even startled the mighty Mundus himself. Ddraig. Serious. I am the heavenly dragon who stole the principles of domination from God. It was the balance breaker that began to morph and grow in size, becoming more draconic by the second. With second had passed, the power of the red armored figure increased dramatically, quickly rivaling Mundus's current strength. Mundus. Eyes narrowed while a bit nervous. What is this power? Ddraig. Serious. I laugh at the infinite and fret over the dream. I shall become the red dragon of domination. And I shall drown you in the depths of the crimson purgatory. Juggernaut drive. What stood before Mundus was a 30-meter tall red dragon with emerald green encased all over the body, including the bones of the wings. But what terrified the demon king was the amount of power this dragon was releasing, which rivaled his younger brother's strength in his prime. Mundus. Trembling. Just what are you? Cold vengeance. It was then at blinding speed that the miniature dragon tackled the demon king on the ground while digging its claws into Mundus's abdomen, while opening his mouth bit down on the demon king's neck, piercing his stone-like skin and into his flesh, drawing out blood. Despite the size difference, the red dragon was able to take flight, all while the demon king, who was screaming pain from his body being pierced. Once both of them were in the air, Mundus used whatever strength he had to push the dragon off him. Using his wings, Mundus was able to stabilize him in mid-flight. Mundus. Furious. You damn brat, you'll pay for this. Roars roar. It was then that Mundus summoned a volley of magic circles and aimed it upward towards the red dragon and summoned a massive beam of demonic energy towards it. Only for the red dragon to respond in kind by opening his mouth shot a large crimson beam of draconic energy that obliterated Mundus's incoming attack and in fact damaged instead by further damaging his chest, thus creating a large hole in it. This caused the mighty demon king to lose balance and began to fall from the sky and crash land onto the land in which they fought, creating a mountain-sized crater. When the red dragon landed just a few feet in front, Mundus glared at the beast before him with absolute malice, since he couldn't believe that this boy whose blood flowed was the person he trusted the most and considered his most trusted lieutenant. The demon king couldn't help but feel that the universe was essentially mocking him, since right now history was repeating itself, but this time the ending will be different. Mundus coughs out blood, glares daggers, damn you, you filthy abomination. Stoic, you knew damn well that it would end this way, Mundus. You already dug your grave the moment you decided to go after my mother and killed her. But since I am human to show some form of mercy, I will hear any last words that you have, Mundus. Mundus glares with absolute hatred. I curse you, son of Sparda, for now and eternity. I curse that you will never find peace and that you live filled with pain and misery for the rest of your days. Stoic, I see, goodbye, Mundus. But that said, third dragon's chest began to open up, revealing a large green gem inside, in which it began to glow with Ddraig's voice beginning to boom out throughout the battlefield. Boost 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 boost. Boost 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 boost. Long-Ina Smasher. It was then a gigantic emerald beam of demonic energy came out of the large green gem, completely engulfing Mundus, destroying both his body and soul. Once the beam died down, the dragon glowed crimson, signifying that it was reverting back to his original form. When the glowing died, what came out was a handsome brown hair boy that was no older than 15 years old, with a white streak forming from the crown and blood-red eyes. He wore a green coat, a scarf, a white t-shirt, black pants, and a pendant that had a beautiful blood ruby embedded into it. Breathe, Stoic, finally it's done, you can finally rest in peace, mother father. It was then a bright emerald glow appeared on Issei's left hand, and out spoke Ddraig, seeing how his partner was holding up. Ddraig. Serious, so you finally did it. Now that you killed Mundus and avenged your mother, are you still gonna go along with that plan of yours? Nods. I am Ddraig because I know both my mother and my father did not want this life for me. As such, it is only right that I honor my mother's dying wish and try to live a normal life away from all this madness which is the supernatural. Ddraig. Serious. I understand your decision, partner, and I will support it, especially everything you've been through. You deserve to live a quiet and peaceful life. Curious, but I hope you know that not everyone will be happy with your decision. Stoic. Both Aniki and Oba-chan, as well as some others, understand my decision and are in support of it. Zest, though reluctant, but she understands on why I must do this, a bit saddened, though I am a bit worried about Hero being away from me for so long. But just like me, he is strong and resilient, and since we're both technically immortal, this break that I'm taking will only feel like a blip to him. Ddraig. Serious, true, but I'm talking about the two females that you brought with you along with the goddess. You didn't tell them about your little retirement plan after you killed Mundus. Don't you think you should have at least told them before it bites you in the ass later on in the future? Sighs in annoyance. Trust me, it's for the best that they don't what I'm about to do. Sweat drops. Besides, no doubt they'll try to undo my seals, just to try to get me to do another job with them. Ddraig. Laughs. Ha ha ha. Yeah, I guess that it is true, huh? As if on cue, as soon as Issei finished his conversation with two being appeared in front of Issei. The first one being a tall, tan-skinned, white-haired young woman with a slim yet shapely figure and gold-green eyes. She has a rabbit tail and rabbit ear-shaped horns. Her attire consists of a tight black dress that reveals her middle chest, black shoulder pads and gold lining, white stockings, and black long boots that have a golden lining. Smiles. Lord Sparda, good you are still here, I was afraid that you had already left. The third being was a 20-meter-sized monster with superficially lupin features. It has highly developed limbs, sharp fangs and claws. Everyone could tell from its forelegs that they were extremely powerful and could kill prey in one brutal blow. It had spikes all around its body which were mostly flat, it had obsidian black skin, which almost looked like scales that could take a ballistic missile, and it wouldn't even make a dent in it. It also had dark crimson glowing accents around parts of its body, as well as its claws. The beast had white fur on its head, back, tail, and the back parts of its leg. Barks. Woof, woof. Issei smiles softly. Zest, here, you're finally here. Serious, Zest, did you already send those three away? Zest nods. Yes, I did as instructed. Sweat drops, though I'm afraid they were not pleased by being forcibly teleported away with no explanation, and will no doubt have words with you when you meet them again. Smirks smugly, though I will admit seeing that ignorant goddess's reaction when I sent her away was indeed priceless. Sighs. I expected as much from those two, but I do wish you wouldn't get into scuffle with the other one every time you two meet. Mind? Sweat drops, although if I'm lucky they'll either be dead or have completely forgotten about me by the time my seals are undone or broken. But sadly, knowing my luck, that's not gonna happen. Zest. Serious, well bound, I will keep that in mind for future references, my lord. It was then Issei was brought out of his thoughts when he felt a nudge on his arm, and he turned his head to the source of it, to which it was Hyoudou with his head down and slightly whimpering, since he knew he might not be able to see his master for a long while. Isay, seeing this, couldn't help but be saddened for Hyoudou, since he couldn't deny that the legendary Crimson Beast of Calamity was a trustful and loyal companion to him, to the point he had truly grown fond of the legendary beast. It was then Isay gently petted Hyoudou with a saddened expression still plastered on his face. Saddened, I know, Hyoudou, but this needs to happen, but I will definitely miss you. Hyoudou whimpers. Saddened, I know this hurts me more than you know. Smiles softly, but hey, it will only be for a couple of years or so, and after that we can spend the rest of eternity together. Upon hearing, Hyoudou did feel a bit happy and began to snuggle more against his master, to which the brown-haired boy would stroke his fur, gently causing the legendary to hum in satisfaction. Smiles softly, I will truly miss Hyoudou. Zest. Smiles sadly, we both will be Lord Sparda, life will not be the same without you around. Smiles sadly, I know, and I will miss you to Zest. But just like with Hyoudou, this seal of mine will only last hopefully till the end of my human life, and after that hopefully we will live out the rest of eternity in peace. Zest. Nods while blushing a bit high. Serious, master? Curious. Behind the brown-haired stood a shadowy human figure that had red eyes similar to the brown-haired boy, but spoke in a pure demonic voice. Smirks, I was wondering what happened to you. I honestly would have used this opportunity to finally betray me and leave to cause some unknown havoc that would no doubt bite me in the ass later. Smirks, no, my master, I was currently dealing with the surrounding demons who were trying to aid Mundus with his battle with you. Since I know you don't like anyone interfering with your battles, I took the initiative and eliminated them before you even sensed approaching. Plus, despite all of my cleverness and scheming, I have learned from watching you and Ddraig faced your fears head on that none of that would work against you. Thus I have come to accept this new life of mine, and that is to be your faithful shadow, and help spread fear into the very hearts and souls of your enemies. Smirks HMPH, well, the fact that you look like this must mean that those demons must have given you quite the workout. Serious, you've done an excellent job at performing your task, now then return to home and slumber to regain your strength and wait for my call. Bows on one knee while smirking, I shall await your call, my master. But that being, the shadowy figure disappeared into a pool of shadows to begin its slumber, and awaits for the faithful day for when his master would call upon him again. Once it was gone, the brown-haired boy faced his other two compatriots, though with a sad smile on his face, since this will be the last time he would be seeing them for a while. Smiles sadly, well, it's about time, I guess. I can already sense a majority of the faction leaders gathering around the barrier since the fighting stopped. Serious, Ddraig, contact Nikki and tell him that he can disable the barrier, now we're leaving. Ddraig. Serious, already on it, he said that once you three are in the dimensional gap he'll disable the barrier. Issei. Nods good, smiles sadly, well, let's get this over with. But that said, the brown-haired boy summoned a katana with a gold dragon-styled Minuki inserted underneath its tsukamaki to allow for the fingers to grip. The Tsuba handguard is now gold and a deep navy blue, shaped like an octagon with two trapezoidal halves, each with gold dot pattern patches, and in a grove-like motif with gold rings, inside of which are various circles and clusters of three, arranged in triangular patterns, and the gold habaki fuller is also with a similar embossed pattern. The heimin featured is a Kawazuko Choji or tadpole head clove-styled heimin, similar to those found on blades historically made by Asafune Nagamitsu. The blade has also been given prominent temper lines. The scabbard is black, made of traditional lacquered wood, and features several metallic ornaments on its far end. Once the sword was in his hands, the brown-haired unsheathed the sword and sliced the air in the form of a cross. But once the sword sheathed once again, the area in which the boy sliced opened a portal to an unknown destination. Once the portal was open, all three individuals stepped into the portal, leaving the battlefield without a trace. Once the three individuals in the distance surrounded fog and mist due to the effects of the battle that took place, stood two individuals hidden behind the mist. One had a savage grin on his face, since now that Mundus was finally dead, he can begin to set his plans into motion. While the other one had a sly smirk on his face, since what he just witnessed gave an unbelievable amount of data he just acquired on not only the boosted gear, but the swords that were forged by Sparda. Grins finally, for a moment there I didn't think the brat would be up to the task of actually taking out that old geezer serious, though him taking the left eye was definitely not part of the plan. Smirks, no matter, once I find him I'll just take the left eye along with the boosted gear, and with that my rule will be absolute. Smirks while walking through the battlefield, amazing. Curious with an raised eyebrow, what are you doing, Sentinel? From out of the mist came a tall man dressed in a white jacket, black sash, white hakama, black tabi and white samurai. He had brown hair, silver eyes, and masculine facial features. This was Sentinel, a former cadre who defected from Gregory. Sentinel smirks, don't you see? Before me is valuable data that I can use for my research, and now that I was able to see the full capabilities of both the boosted gear and the swords of Sparda, I can use this to help not only make my own artificial sacred gears closer to that of the originals, but also I can use this to help forge weapons that will no doubt help empower your future generals. Since we have those idiots at that so-called holy church under our influence, we won't have to worry about running out of test subjects to see how far my creations may go. Smirks HMPH, just remember about our pact, fallen angel. As long as you help me achieve my goals and not only secure my rule and strengthen my troops, then all of the resources of the demon realm are at your disposal to help you with whatever device you desire. Sentinel smirks, well, bowing, why of course, to be honest I don't have any intention about ruling the world. All I care about is being able to create and evolve more Longinus class sacred gears, and if allying with a demon such as yourself helps me achieve my goals and satisfy my lust for knowledge, so be it. But I do have one request for when you find the son of Sparda. Curious, what is it? Sentinel smirks, before you implant the left eye into you, I would like to study it, since it is in most cases it is still a sacred gear, and an extremely rare one that is on par with a Longinus. The same would be if we were to find the right eye. Serious, very well then, now let's go before the factions find out about us. Looks around, I can already see the barrier being undone. Sentinel smirks, very well then. But that said, both Sentinel and the mysterious demon vanished within a magic circle, setting their plans in motion. Almost 3 years later. Kuo Academy, or Clubroom. The high schooler with spiky brown hair, with 2 short locks of hair behind his head, and light brown eyes. He wore Kuo Academy boys' school uniform, which consists of a blazer over a white long-sleeved dress shirt with a red t-shirt underneath his open dress shirt and blazer, and wears blue and white sneakers. This boy was no other than Issei Hyoudou, and a member of the perverted trio, as well as the devil pawn of Rias Gremory, as well as this generation's Red Dragon Emperor. It has been a week since his fight with Riser and saved his master Rias Gremory from a despicable marriage from Riser, in which everyone in the orc including Rias were overjoyed and thankful for what he did. It was also then the brown-haired boy's romantic feelings for the red-headed heiress began to increase dramatically. Although he noticed after that day that Rias had been acting a bit different, almost distant, to which everyone more or less agreed that Rias was just reeling herself in from being finally free from Riser, but Isay still sinking feeling inside that it was something else. He also noticed that Rias had been a lot more agitated about his perverted behavior, in which before he would only receive a light scolding, but now he could tell she was getting completely annoyed with his perverted antics, which worried him greatly. Currently he was returning from a contract in which he was successful in. He hoped that hearing about finally requiring his first pact will help him get back Ria's good graces. Isay, mind. Smiles excitedly, finally. After a whole month of being a devil, I've finally made a pact with someone. I'm one step closer to my dream of becoming the harem king. But also this will help get Rias back on her good side, grins pervertedly, maybe she'll finally let me touch her boobs. Meanwhile, deep inside Isay's soul resides the soul of the Red Dragon Emperor Ddraig, who couldn't help sigh in disappointment since, as always, his host was constantly thinking about breasts and whatnot. Normally he wouldn't mind such behaviors since he had many hosts in the past who were like that, but Isay puts all of their perversion to shame, given how focused he is about fondling a pair of women's breasts. Ddraig, mind. Sighs again, he's non-stop thinking about breasts and having a harem, but even though I don't like it, it was the only way for him to achieve his true dream of finding peace and quiet, which after everything he has been through I can't blame him, and I will keep my promise to him, though I wish that he would have chose a far less perverted version of himself, honestly. Concerned though the way the Gremory heiress has been acting these last few days has me concerned. I just hope she won't do anything that will bring harm to Isay, or else I might have to undo his seals sooner than I thought I would. As Isay got closer to the clubroom, he noticed how the door was slightly opened and the room was dark with a dim light shined on it. He then started to hear voices coming from the room. It was then he decided to slowly sneak up to the clubroom without letting anyone know that he was approaching. Though to his fears, as he got closer to the clubroom, the voices that he was hearing sounded like moans of pleasure. When he looked inside through the crack opening, what he saw shocked and broke him completely. On top of the desk was his master and crush Rias Gremory, completely naked, having sex with a person who he had never met before. He had very long aquamarine hair, crimson eyes. He was wearing blue blazers but purplish red trousers in contrast. Rias moans in pleasure, oh zero, that's it. Zero grins, as you wish for my crimson ruin princess. Rias moans in pleasure. I can't believe I ever thought about it, giving my first to that pervert Issei Hyoudou, but you zero know just how to treat a woman right. Zero. Grins. Well, after you told me the type of person he is, I thought you deserve someone better than that Rias, and I'll make sure to take care of you with all your needs. You'll help me get the boosted gear from him, right, so that way I can protect you a lot better than him. Rias smiles. Of course, for fuck's sake, he had to give up his own arm, just use balance breaker, and that was only for a few seconds. But I can sense a whole lot more power coming from you, Zero, and I think Ddraig wouldn't mind having you as a partner than that weak pervert. Moans. Zero grins. Well then, since you're doing all this for me. Groans in pleasure. As Issei saw Rias, he felt completely broken and betrayed. He couldn't believe that his master and crush Rias Gremory thought of him that way. Meanwhile, Ddraig was beyond furious at Rias for talking down on his host like that and thinking he would want to be with a host like Zero, when even though everyone may not know it, but Isay was actually the best host ever, past, present, and future. Not wanting to be here anymore, Isay quietly got up and walked away with his hair covering his eyes. Ddraig, seeing his host completely heartbroken, decided it was probably time for Isay's seals to be broken so that he would not let what he saw bring him down completely. Ddraig, mind. Sad, and I just hope you'll forgive me, partner. As Issei walked through the grounds of the academy, everyone saw that the perverted beast of Kuo walking aimlessly with his hair covering his eyes. But no one paid him any mind since they thought he was deeply in thought about something perverted about breasts and whatnot. Even his friends Mitsuda and Motohama, who were too busy trying to peek on the girls' kendo club, didn't even bother to go check up on Isay. But there was one person who seemed genuinely concerned about the brown-haired boy's state. This person could sense the amount of sadness and betrayal that was radiating from Isay all the way from the room she was currently in right now. This person was a stunningly attractive woman with sexy hip length, black hair that had bangs hanging on the right side with two ahogs, green eyes, a mole under her left eye, red round glasses, one earring on her left ear, and a voluptuous figure. She has very large breasts, even larger than Rias or Akeno. Her work outfit consists of a green knitted turtleneck, a tight black miniskirt, along with her cross-garter motif stockings, and her signature white lab coat. This was Chisato Hasegawa, the nurse in Kuo Academy, or known by the majority of the male students and staff as the goddess of Kuo, due to her beauty and figure being completely out of this world. Every day Chisato goes through the halls of Kuo being complimented by the males at the school for how beautiful she was, with even some of the staff members trying to go out with her, but of course she refused each and every one of them. Chisato was also popular with the females, with a lot of them asking her for advice about boys and relationships, to which she was happy to do so. But out of everyone in the school, there was only one boy that was not completely affected by her charms, and that person was Issei Hyoudou. Now, even though Chiasto knew full well about the brown-haired boy's perversion ever since he and his friends enrolled here at Kuo since last year, but she didn't entirely mind, since every time they would interact, which would mostly be him coming into the nurse's office after being beaten up the kendo club for peeking, he was calm as well as a bit shy and innocent. Even though he would still ogle and grin like a goofy pervert, sometimes he was quick to snap out of it and revert back to the shy and innocent boy that she got to know personally, to which she found very cute and adorable. Over the past year, the black-haired beauty had grown fond of the brown-haired pervert to the point she would become greatly concerned about the boy's well-being. Before the new transfer student Asia Argento moved in with Isay, Chisato would come by his house to help cook him dinner so that he was eating healthy. Upon seeing the boy that she grew quite fond of being all depressed and sad, filled her with so much sadness, since she could only imagine what would happen to him. Chisato, whisper. Concerned Isay. Confused Hasegawa-sensei. Chisato. Startled huh. The person that was calling Chisato's name was a girl who has shoulder-length light ocean blue hair that is tied in a ponytail with a purple-made headband that has one gold star on the left side, deep purple eyes, thick long black eyelashes and large breasts. She is also quite small, as she is only 5 feet tall. She wears the typical Kuo Academy's girl's uniform with a shoulder cape and being replaced with a vest over her chest shirt. Chisato smiles. Oh, forgive me Kurumu-kun, it seems that I got distracted. Was there something you wanted to talk about? This girl's name was Kurumu Kurono, a transfer student who came around the same time as Asia Argento. She came to this school at the request of her mother, who told her that she would no doubt find the man of her dreams, but was reluctant to tell her who he is, and only told her that she will know once she finds him. She genuinely wanted to try to find him and get to know him first, since this supposed boy is also her older sister's possible dream man, which made the young blue-haired beauty sigh in disbelief at her mother's antics and willing to essentially give away both of her daughters to a boy that they don't even know. So far since coming to this school, she had no such luck, and all she has endured was a bunch of dumb men who looked at her with lustful intentions. As for why she was with Chisato, the reason being was because she heard from a lot of the girls in the school that Chisato gave amazing advice about relationships, and since she never been with or even spent any time with a male, she thought she should at least get some tips in case she so happens to meet her destined one. The which thankfully to the blue-haired girl's delight that the rumors were correct since Chisato even gave her tips on how to impress her future destined one. Kurumu nods while smiling softly. No, thank you so much for your help, Chisato-sensei. Chisato smiles softly. I'm glad I could help. Kurumu curious, although I am still curious about something. Chisato curious, what is it? Kurumu smiles nervously. Well, forgive me if I'm being rude or nosy, but even though you seem to know a lot about being in a relationship, I have heard you've been mostly single for most of your life, and I don't see an engagement ring of the sort, so you could say I'm kind of confused. Chisato smiles softly. I see. Well, to satisfy your curiosity, I answer your question. In actuality, you could say I've been seeing someone for the past year. Kurumu amazed and curious. Wow, so what's he like? Chisato smiles fondly. Well, it's hard to say since when I first met him, he was a completely different person. He was cold, stoic, and even brutal. Kurumu sweat drops. Don't know if I want someone like that as my boyfriend. Chisato smiles softly. Well, to be fair, he did have a really good reason to be like that, since he had lost his family. But despite all of that, he was still kind and noble in his own way, and despite having no reason to do so, he risked his life to save me from people who were very less than pleasant. It was honestly at that moment I fell in love with him, and even though he couldn't accept my feelings at the time, my heart had already belonged to him. Kurumu sad, and I see. Well, I do feel bad for you that you essentially got rejected. Chisato smiles softly. Well, I did say that's how he used to be. Kurumu curious, so what is he like now? Chisato smiles softly. He's very kind, honest, caring, and very sweet, though he still hasn't accepted my feelings for him, yet I'm confident he will open up to me in due time. Kurumu in awe. Wow, that sounds so romantic, it's like something out of a romantic soap opera. Chisato giggles. Why, thank you for the compliment. Kurumu smiles softly. Well, it's getting late and I should be heading back home. Bows respectfully. I do hope you have a good night, Chisato-sensei, and I do hope that your relationship with that man you're seeing goes well. Chisato smiles. Thank you, Kurumu. As the blue-haired girl left the room, Chisato couldn't help but get the image of Issei looking all depressed out of her mind, and she could tell from his expression that something had happened. Chisato concerned. Issei, what happened to you? I guess I should go visit him later to see how he's doing. Scene change. Hyoudou residence. 1 hour later. Issei had been walking for about an hour with his hair still covering his eyes. He was walking like a man who had just lost everything. While walking, Isay would ignore the stares he would receive from people who were still walking around late at night. He wanted to cry, he wanted to be angry, he wanted this feeling of being heartbroken and betrayed to go away, but he couldn't, like his body and soul refused to let it happen. When he arrived home, he wasn't really expecting much since he lived alone with his new adopted sister Asia, because about a year before Isay attended high school, his parents Miki and Goru Hyoudou died in a terrible car crash, leaving him an orphan. Though Isay did have a godfather and a godmother who he had never met but has been paying for living expenses as well as his tuition for going to Kuo Academy. There was also Chisato-sensei who would come by from time to time and cook him dinner, but that more or less stopped once Asia moved in with him. When he arrived home, he was greeted by a pretty young girl with long blonde hair and green eyes. This girl was of course Asia Argento, a bishop of Rias Gremory, as well as the adopted sister of Issei Hyoudou. After Asia was killed by Rainer from taking her sacred gear Twilight Healing, Issei begged Rias to reincarnate her as a bishop because he felt like he failed in saving her. Afterwards Issei allowed her to move in with her, since the poor girl had nowhere else to go, which Asia greatly appreciated, and since then Issei had treated Asia as the little sister that he never had, and even though she kind of wished Issei would see her more as a woman and not just as a sister. Asia smiles. Welcome home, Issei-san. Issei silent. When Asia saw Issei, she was shocked that he wasn't his usual happy-go-lucky self, which concerned Asia greatly, since this meant happened to Issei. But before Asia could try asking Issei what was going on with him, he spoke in a cold and distant voice. Asia concerned. Issei, are you oh? Issei cold and distant. I'm sorry Asia, but I just wish to be alone for right now, and I won't be having any dinner tonight. I'll see you tomorrow. Asia concerned. Okay, rest well Issei-san. Issei smiles weakly. Thank you Asia. As Asia saw Issei walking upstairs, she began to have a worried expression on her face, since wondered what happened to Issei that made him so cold and distant all of a sudden. Asia mind concerned. Issei-san, what happened to you? Currently Issei is in his room sitting on his bed with his head down, thinking over what he just saw and heard. He couldn't believe that the woman that he developed romantic feelings for talked about him that way, as well as thinking about not kicking him out of her peerage, as well as taking Ddraig from him. He couldn't help but feel the same way when he was killed by Raynor, and how she mocked him for being a pervert, and that no one would ever love him. Issei. Sad, and was she right? Am I really just a worthless pervert that will never find love? Do the others feel the same way? Were they just acting nice and supportive just because I was the Red Dragon Emperor? Did Asia also? Is this my fate? Am I just destined to be a fool to fall in love with someone only to be betrayed and heartbroken over and over again? It was then a green glow appeared on Issei's left hand in which Ddraig spoke through it. Ddraig. Serious, no, it is not a partner, don't listen to what that useless master of yours thinks. You're fine just the way you are. Issei. Sad, and Ddraig, be honest with me, would you rather team up with Zero instead of me? Ddraig. Silent. Issei. Sad, and I mean even Rias said it herself, Zero is probably a whole lot stronger than I am, and the last thing you ever wanted was to have a weak and perverted host like me when you have to go up against your fated rival. I literally had to give up my left arm to use the balance breaker, and that was only for a few seconds. Ddraig. Serious, no. Issei. Confused, huh? Why? Ddraig. Serious, because no, Issei, you are not only my best host but also strongest my host past, present, and future. There is no way I will trade this partnership with anyone, especially after everything we've been through. Issei. Confused, what are you talking about, Ddraig? There's no way I'm your strongest host since I only awakened the boosted gear only a month ago and only just started speaking to you last week. Ddraig. Sigh sadly. Serious, Issei, it's time. Issei. Confused, what do you mean it's time? You're not making any sense, Ddraig. Ddraig. Serious, it's time to remember who you really are, Issei. Sad, and though I wished it wouldn't have to be so soon, but if the Gremory girl thinks she can take me from you, then she has another thing coming. Serious, I hope you'll forgive me for this, partner. Issei. Confused, what are you saying? DDR in pain. AAHH. It was then a large red magic circle appeared on Issei's chest which started to disappear, all while Issei was in absolute pain while going through memories that he had never seen before. Memories of having loving parents that weren't the Hyoudous. He remembered how he would train and spar with his father constantly on swordsmanship, and how his mother was so kind and nurturing, and how she would teach him magic. Issei then remembered how his father died due to a mysterious illness, and that his mother was murdered about a year later by demons, and that he was forced to fight against a horde of demons all by himself when he was only 8 years old. He remembered the desire to obtain more power so that he would never feel weak or helpless ever again, which he unlocked the boosted gear for the first time, and how shortly after he met a fiery red-headed man who was his godfather and took him in. He remembered all of the years of training he did with his godfather, uncles, and older brother figure in order to become the strongest. He remembered all of the adventures he had with Ddraig and how he got his revenge on the person who sent those demons that killed his mother, and how afterwards he wanted to finally live in a life of peace and quiet in which he asked Ddraig and his godfather to seal away his memories and powers to ensure that no one would figure out who he really is. All of Issei's screaming caught the attention of Asia, who burst into Issei's room, concerned about what had happened to Issei. When she entered the room she saw Issei on fours panting and covered in sweat. Issei. Panting. I remember everything. Asia. Concerned. Issei-san, are you alright? Issei. Looks to Asia confused, huh? Pinching the bridge of his nose. Yeah Asia, I'm fine, I just finally remembered who I am. Asia. Confused, what are you talking about, Issei? It was then Issei looked at Asia dead in her eyes for a solid minute, since he didn't entirely know if he could trust Asia or the rest of Orc, since they could easily be a part of Ria's plan to get rid of him and take his boosted gear. Issei. Serious Asia, do you really care about me? Asia. Confused and flustered, huh? Issei. Serious, answer the question. Asia, do you really care about me? Close his left eye, don't lie, because. It was then Issei opened up his left eye, in which instead of being the normal light brown eyes that everyone in both at school or the Orc has known him to have, but instead Issei had a blood red eye that became slitted with what seemed to look like ancient runes circling around the iris. His sclera became jet black instead of the usual white that most people have. Issei. Serious, I will know if you are lying to me. Upon seeing Issei's left eye, Asia became terrified, since for starters Issei was acting completely different. No longer he was acting like the kind and caring person that she has known for the past month. But also the fact something about that eye creeped her out. She could feel the infinite darkness behind those eyes. Though unknowingly, the young blonde looking at Issei's crimson red eye awakened something inside of her, something that neither her or anyone in this universe was completely aware of, in which her right eye began to glow a deep azure blue instead of her usual bright green. Upon seeing the eye, both Issei and Ddraig were completely shocked to think that Asia of all people would have it. Issei. Ddraig. Shocked. No way, it can't be. As the brown-haired boy and the mighty red dragon were in complete awe and shock of what they were seeing, the young ex-nun was shocked and freaking for an entirely different reason now. When her right changed color and began to glow, she was looking at Issei in a totally different light, in which what she saw was not a human being, but a demon. The true demon with blood-red eyes with razor-sharp teeth and claws, his skin was made out of red and black demonic steel and rock. Upon seeing the demonic figure, Asia became frightened and started to back away frantically. Asia? Frightened? Just what are you? Issei? Confused. What do you mean, Asia? It's me, Issei. Asia? Nods her head fearfully. No, you're not. You're a monster, a demon. What have you done with the Rias Kun? Issei? Confused. What is she talking about? Ddraig? Serious partner, it's her eye, she is probably seeing your true nature. Isay? Concerned. Shit, you're right, I got caught up with her having the right eye, I forgot that their abilities are the same in nature. It was then Issei quickly ran up to Asia and grabbed both of her shoulders in order to try to help her calm down. Though much to the brown-hair boy's disappointment, this just caused the young blonde to panic even more. Issei? Serious, Asia, I need you to calm down, please. Asia? Panics. Let go of me, you monster. Issei? Serious, Asia, it's me, Issei. Asia? Panics. No, you're not, you're a demon that disposed of Rias Kun and took on his appearance to trick me. Sheds a tear. Now I will never be able to tell him how I really feel about him. Issei? Surprised Asia. Asia? Sheds a tear. I wanted to thank him for everything he has done for me. He gave me his friendship, his home, a place to belong, and introduced me to people that I can call family. But most importantly, I wanted him to see me not as a little sister to look after, but as a woman that he could love, just like how he looks at Rias senpai. This shocked the brown-haired boy, since he had no idea that Asia had held such feelings for him. But then again, maybe Issei did know that she did but never wanted to notice due to her innocent nature, as well as the fear about being rejected after his date with Rainer. But now that he regained his memories again, it genuinely doesn't have those fears anymore, but he still didn't know if he could ever respond to the blonde girl's feelings, or at least not right now. But right now he needed to calm Asia down before things went way too out of hand, especially since he probably needed to hurry up and leave in case Rias decided to enact her plan to kill him. It was then Issei gently cupped Asia's cheek while having a soft smile which caught the young girl's attention. It was then Issei speaking soft and gentle voice. Issei? Smiled softly. Asia, do you really think that I would ever hurt you? I made a promise that we would always be together and I would always protect you. At those words, Asia became surprised at the words that were coming from the demonic entity, since to her, it did truly sound like the Issei that she always knew, and the warmth that she felt when the demon touched her cheek felt so similar to how Issei would hold her. Asia? Curious. Issei-san, is that really you? Issei? Nods while smiling. It's me, Asia. Now I need you to calm and breath, since what you are currently seeing right now is not real. Asia? Curious but a bit afraid. Really? Issei? Nods while smiling. Really? It was then Asia did as Issei instructed and began to take deep breaths in order to calm down, and once Issei saw that her eye was returning back to normal, he did the same so that her eye wouldn't activate by coincidence. Issei? Smiled softly. Better? Asia? Curious. Yes. Issei? Sighs in relief. That's good. Asia? Curious. What just happened? What was that demon that I saw? Why did your eye change the way it did? Issei? Sighs. Serious. There are so many things I want to tell you right now, Asia. But right now I need to collect my thoughts, since not only did I get memories again, but now this new revelation about you can change everything. Asia? Curious. What do you mean, Issei-san? Issei? Serious. Asia, are you sure that the church couldn't tell you anything about your birth parents? Asia? Nods. No, even when I unlocked Twilight Healing they couldn't find any information about who my parents were. It was then a green gem appeared on Issei's left hand and spoke. Ddraig. Ddraig? Serious. Well, after seeing what just happened, there is no denying it, you possess the right eye of light. Issei? Serious, making you a lumen sage and quite possibly the last of them, just like how I'm technically the last Umbra witch in existence. Asia? Curious and confused. Lumen sage, Umbra witch, the right eye of light. What does all that mean? Issei? Sighs. I promise you that I will explain everything, but first I need to do something that I didn't think I would ever have to do. Smiled softly. Thank you, Ddraig, for releasing my seals. I know it wasn't an easy choice to make after I told both you and Nikki the only reason you should undo my seals was unless it was an emergency. You made the right call and I'm thankful for that, my friend. Ddraig. Smiles. Anytime, partner. I knew that I was a gamble when I released that small portion of your seal so that you could take on the Phoenix brat, since I didn't know if releasing that small portion would no doubt release all of it at once. Issei? Serious, even if that was the case I wouldn't be as powerful as I was before, especially since we needed to completely reset the boosted gear so that Albion's host or anyone from the supernatural wouldn't be able to find me. To be honest, I'm surprised I was able to unlock you so quickly despite my seals still holding. Ddraig smirks. Well, even if your memories and powers were sealed, you are still your father and mother's son. Despite not accepting the power you inherited from your father, you were able to make leaps and bounds to the point you made it to the top 5 strongest beings in existence, and at such a young age. Issei smirks. HMPH, I guess you are right about that, but I couldn't do without you, Aniki, Jai-san, Ani-san, and the others. It was thanks to all of you that helped me become as strong as I was back then. Smiles weakly. Plus it was thanks to all of you that didn't completely fall into darkness like the few times I've had before. Serious, but right now, I need to hurry and get rid of these evil pieces. Asia shocked and confused. What? But Issei-san, if you do that, won't you die? What about Rias-senpai? Issei sighs sadly. Right, you don't know, do you? Asia confused. Huh? Issei sighs. Follow me, I'll explain what I can. Scene change. Hyoudou residence, downstairs. As Issei and Asia descended downstairs to the basement of the home, the brown-haired boy gave an overview of who the Umber Witches and Lumen Sages were. A group of humans who helped maintain the balance of the world in ancient times and were given the eyes of the world by both the biblical god Yahweh and the demon king Mundus, mostly out of pity, of course. He went on to explain that the Umber Witches were given the left eye of darkness by Mundus as a way to help bring his demonic army into the human realm. As such, the Umber Witches would make soul-bounding pacts with demons or demonic spirits in exchange for power and knowledge. That the Lumen Sages were essentially human warriors for God, to which they were given the right eye of light. Their mission was to help to combat the forces of darkness within the human realm, as well as to help humans maintain their faith in God to an extent. Similar to Umber Witches, the Lumen Sages would make pacts with angelic divine spirits, similar to that of angels, in order to fight off the forces of darkness. As Issei explained all of this, the young blonde was in absolute awe about the history of her lineage and hoped that maybe she could perform some of these feats in the future. Though sadly, Isay then explained on how earlier today he saw Rias having sex with Zero and how they were planning on killing Isay and taking away his sacred gear. This made the ex-nun horrified of the person who she was starting to see as an older sister was willing to throw away someone who just saved her from an horrible arranged marriage, all because he was weak and perverted. Even though the young nun couldn't bring herself to fully hate the red-headed girl, since, even though it was thanks to mostly Isay she did bring herself back to life, but she was indeed heavily disappointed in the red-headed heiress, since she knew about the growing feelings that Isay had for her before anyone else in the orc. But when the young blonde asked Isay about the others in the orc if they were possibly a part of it, he simply told her that it wouldn't make that much of a difference, and even if they weren't part of the plan to kill him, it wasn't as if he was there long enough to forge any significant bonds. But he did mention that if they really weren't part of his betrayal, then he wished them the best of luck with their endeavors, despite their mistress being a fool. Although if the blonde was being honestly, she couldn't help but see this as a chance to possibly to get the brown-haired boy more as a woman than as a little sister like she always wanted, but even she knew that she couldn't jump in right away, since there might be some emotional damage for Isay sort through some emotional, before he could even think about trying getting into a relationship again. Currently there was something that the young blonde wanted to ask Isay, which involved the discovery of her newfound lineage. Asia? Curious, Isay-san. Isay, curious, yes Asia. Asia? Concerned, it's just that you say that both the Umber Witches and Lumen Sages were at war a few centuries ago. Since you're Umber Witch and I'm a Lumen Sage, does that mean we have to be enemies? Isay smiles softly. No, Asia, we don't have to be enemies. Asia? Curious, really? Isay smiles. Of course, like I said, I'm the last Umber Witch, or to be precise an Umber Warlock in the world, and you are possibly the last Lumen Sage in the world as well, which means if we so wanted to, we can forego those old traditions and forge a new one that helps make sure that the same mistakes of our predecessors don't repeat themselves. Asia smiles happily. That's great. Curious, Isay, can I ask you one more thing? Isay smiles softly. Of course, Asia. Asia curious, it's about the summoning. Have you done it before? I mean, do you have a demon under your control? Isay sighs. Serious, yes I do, a very powerful one which can rival even a super devil class being, although he was a handful since he tried to kill me and control me a couple of times. But after beating him to near death a few times and showing him that I wasn't someone to mess with, he learned his lesson and completely swore loyalty to me. Asia gulps nervously. Do I have to do something like that if I tried summoning an angelic spirit? Isay thinking him smiles. Nah, you should be alright, since unlike demonic spirits, angelic spirits are more obedient and honest to their summoners. Thinking although they might second guess about making a pact with you since right now you are a devil, smiles, but since you have the right eye of light and you are pure of heart as we saw how Isay chose you, then I think you shouldn't have too much trouble if you decided to try it. Hell, I think you might be able to summon and make a pact with an S-rank angelic spirit. Asia? Curious S-rank. Isay nods yes, you see there are ranks when it comes to summoning an angelic and demonic spirit, just like with everything else in the supernatural world. The ranking system goes from E to A, with S rank being considered one of the highest ranks that one can summon. Asia? Curious which rank is your demonic spirit? Isay smirks HMPH, he's an X rank demon. Asia? Shocked and confused, an X rank demon. What is that? Isay smirk something until a few decades ago was considered an absolute myth amongst the two clans, in which it might be possible for someone to summon a spirit that can rival a demon king or god. But no one has been able to perform such a feat, so the theory essentially became a legend among Lumen sages and Umber witches alike, but there was one person who was able to pull it off and summon an X-rank spirit. Asia? Curious, do you know who it was? Isay smiles fondly, yes, it was my mother, my real mother, the Umber witch before me. She was able to summon a demon so powerful that it could rival the demon king Mundus himself. That demon later became my father. Asia? Surprised, so you were essentially already half demon before Rias Empire reincarnated you. Isay nods yes, I was. Reaches the basement door. We're here. Right now both Isay and Asia were in front of the door to the basement. In his artificial memories he was told by both his parents and a letter from his godparents to never go into the basement no matter what. Of course, essentially self-programming himself, he never disobeyed that warning and even told Asia to never go into the basement. But now that his memories have returned, he knew why he made it, so that he should never go down that basement, but he will need it in order to remove the evil pieces inside of him. Isay serious, stay here, Asia, I will be back. Asia concerned, are you sure? Isay nods yes, and no matter what happens do not come in, just wait for me to come out. Asia concerned, okay. Isay smiles while patting her head. HMPH. Asia surprised, huh? Isay smiles softly, I promise that everything will be alright, and once I come out I'll tell you everything. It was then Isay opened the door to the mysterious basement and began his descent, knowing that once he does this, there is no turning back. When Isay reached the bottom of the basement, he was in a dusty old makeshift office with a desk and map on the side. On his desk, he saw the picture of a woman with fairly long, straight flaxen hair, dark-colored eyes, and a very fair complexion. She wore her bangs short and swooped off to the right side of her face. Her attire consisted of a simple black turtleneck dress with intricate gold patterns decorating the front torso half of the dress and also the ends of the dress. On top of it she wore a red shawl. When Isay saw the picture he put on a saddened expression, as if he was trying to apologize for what he was about to do. Isay saddened, I tried, Mom, I truly did try to live the life that you wanted me to live, even though the way I acted was not how you wanted it. But of course, me being you and father's child, there is essentially no rest for me, and that no matter where I go in this world, people will want my power for different reasons. I truly hope you and father can forgive me for what I am about to do. Once he placed the portrait back down, Isay then went to the middle of the basement and placed his hand on the floor, in which a magic circle appeared, to which Isay twisted the circle to the right like a key opening a door. Once done, a part of the floor that was in front of Isay glowed to an outline of a square in which a tomb-like closet emerged from the ground. When Isay opened the closet door, there he saw the 3 swords that belonged to his father. The first, a massive longsword with a heavy double-edged blade, notched on both sides near the tip. The pommel splits open into several spikes. The grip is plain, but the guard is skeletal, with a skull design on each side, leading to the rib cage from which the blade emerges. On one side of the blade, the skull is that of a human, while the other uses a horned demon skull. The crossguard is that of a screaming skull. The second sword was a katana with a gold dragon-styled manuki inserted underneath the tsukamaki to allow for the fingers to grip. The tsuba handguard is now gold and a deep navy blue, shaped like an octagon with 2 trapezoidal halves, each with gold dot pattern patches, and in a grove-like motif with gold rings, inside of which are various circles in clusters of 3. Arranged in triangular patterns, and the gold habaki fuller is also with a similar embossed pattern. The heimin featured is a Kawazuko choji or tadpole head clove styled heimin, similar to those found on blades historically made by Asafune Nagamitsu. The blade has also been given prominent temper lines. The scabbard is black, made of traditional lacquered wood, and features several metallic ornaments on its far end. The last sword is that of a giant curved blade with a thick organic hide, the curved blade and the color scheme of its guard. However, the sword has an organic-looking spinal column, instead of the one that appeared mechanical, with some bony covers below its guard. Its larger red jewel has moved to the side, and a green one is now below it. Once Issei laid his eyes on the blades that once belonged to his father, he couldn't help but feel sad, since he truly thought he could finally leave this life behind, only for it to come crawling back to him like a drug user relapsing for a quick high. But he knew if he truly needed to be free from Rias, as well as to actually continue his plan of trying to live in a world where he can live in peace and quiet. It was then Isay grabbed both the katana and the organic curved blade and placed them on his back and side. But when he was about to grab the long sword, Ddraig spoke once again, since he sensed a hesitation in his partner's mind. "Ddraig. Serious, are you sure you want to be this partner?" "Isay. Breathe, serious, I have to, Ddraig, or else I'll never find true peace and quiet. Plus Rias will try to do anything in her power to take away the boosted gear from me and kill me. She'll probably even go as far as involve Surziches in the mix if she must." "Ddraig. Sighs, serious, I guess that's true, especially how you are right now. Even both the current super devils might prove a challenge to us, and if her peerage were to join in the fight, we might not stand much of a chance. Curious, but what if you announced who you really were to the underworld, then not even the current devil government wouldn't be able to touch you." Isay. Sighs, serious, even if I did that it would just cause too much complication and would no doubt draw too much unwanted attention towards me. Plus the Devil Council will try to manipulate me in order to gain more power and influence in either the underworld or just in the supernatural in general. Hell, I wouldn't pass them if they try to force me to marry a bunch of noble women so they can produce multiple offspring that carry my father's blood as well as the aura of a true heavenly dragon. Ddraig. Sighs, I guess you are right about that, since we dragons tend to attract attention whether we like it or not. Serious, but I just asked because I just wanted to make sure you weren't going down a darker path because of what the Gremory heirs did to you. Isay. Smiles fondly, thank you, Ddraig, I know that I can always count on you to help bring me back down to earth. Ddraig. Smirks, of course, anytime, partner. But what are we gonna do with the nun? Isay. Confused, what do you mean? Ddraig. Serious, I mean it's obvious that she wasn't a part of your betrayal, and possibly the rest of the Gremory peerage were involved as well. Isay. Sighs, if Asia's wants I can safely remove her evil piece so that she could live as a normal human again. To be honest, I might just convince her to do just that, since if the rest of the Devil Council or even Heaven finds out that she possesses the right Eye of Light, then they will try to turn her into a weapon, and that kind of power shouldn't be in control in any faction. But as for the rest of them, I don't know, like I said, since they've served under Rias for a lot longer than me and Asia, so I can't say for certain that they'll side with me or even believe me. Serious, besides I've only known them for like a month, so it's not like there wasn't any lasting attachment I had towards them that would really make me reconsider, but Asia has not only been living with me, but also she has no one else to rely on. Even though I may not be able to respond to Asia's feelings towards me for the moment, I just can't leave her behind. I'm sure that the others will be fine without me. Ddraig. Serious, very well then, I support whatever decision you make, partner. Isay. Serious, thanks, Ddraig. Breaths, I think I'm starting to see why I didn't do this before, this is gonna hurt. It was then Isay grabbed the long sword before erecting a barrier so that no one from the orc or any other supernatural being could detect what was about to happen. After the barrier was in place, he pointed the blade towards his abdomen and took a deep breath before impaling himself with the sword. Stab. Isay. Coughs out blood, yup, that hurt as much as I expected it to. It was then Isay drove the long sword even further into him until rebellion as well as both the katana and the large organic curved blade started to glow and disintegrate into particles and entered his body. It was then the demonic energy accumulated inside started to swirl inside until his body exploded with demonic energy, and out of his body were 8 red pawn pieces. Although the explosion did cause a small barrier in which 3 individuals were able to sense Isay awakening his dormant demonic power. Meanwhile in Kuo Academy. Currently Chisato casually walking out of the gates of Kuo Academy, she had just finished attending a staff meeting. She was going to visit Isay at his home to see how he was doing, since after what she saw earlier, she became greatly concerned for the brown hair boy's well-being. But just as she was about to make her way to the Hyoudou household, she instinctively stood still as she sensed a tiny surge of demonic power, a demonic that she was all too familiar with. Chisato, shocked, oh no, Isay. Meanwhile somewhere in Kuo. In an high-end apartment complex in Kuo, a tall man appearing to be in his 20s with an average build, black hair, golden bangs and black goatee. He was currently playing some video games to which he hooked on thanks to a certain brown-haired devil boy that he recently made a pact with. All was peaceful until he felt a familiar demonic signature. A signature that he hadn't felt in 3 years. Eyes narrowed, could it be Sparda is here? Meanwhile in Takamagahara. In the divine realm of Takamagahara, which is the home of the Shinto gods, we see a beautiful woman with a well-endowed figure. The woman had long jet black hair and beautiful red fiery crimson eyes. She wore a traditional shrine maiden attire. Currently this woman was doing painting until she felt a demonic energy signature that she knew all too well in Kuo. This caused the woman to put her paintbrush down, while having a saddened expression on her face, since not only did she know who energy belonged to, but also it meant something happened to him. Sad and while greatly concerned, "Oh no, Issei," sheds a single tear. "What happened to you to make you do this, my poor Oigo-kun?" Back with Issei. When the explosion settled down, the whole basement was in shambles, and where Issei stood was a demon with 4 wings folded down in a similar manner to the tails of a coat, red arm-mounted blades, and a thick reptilian tail with a barbed tip that extends from between its shoulders. The head of the demon was that of a traditional samurai helmet more, with the horns assuming hollowed and tube-like shape, venting demonic energy in a manner resembling exhausts. The solid part of his body resembles samurai armor more, and the whole body is wreathed in silver aura. This was the full manifestation of Issei's demonic heritage that he received from his father. After a few moments, Issei disabled his demonic transformation, but when he returned back to his human form, he longer the scrawny brown-haired boy that everyone in Kuo recognized him. In place was an extremely handsome young man with an impressive build and had silvery white hair and blood-red eyes. If the now white-haired boy had a mirror, he would have no doubt looked like a spitting image of his father. Though still feeling a bit groggy from the intense transformation needed to make sure if the outburst didn't affect the boosted gear. As such, Isay called out to Ddraig to see if he was still connected to him. "Isay. Serious?" While breathing heavily, "Ddraig, are you still there?" It was then the green gem appeared on his left hand, and out spoke Ddraig in a cocky and arrogant tone. "Ddraig. Smirks HMPH like you can get rid of me that easily, partner." Isay. Smirks HMPH looks at his body. "So this is the full power that I inherited from my father. To think I had this much potential buried deep inside of me." Ddraig. "Serious? Well, remember, before you didn't really want to rely on your demonic heritage to get your revenge, hence you jumped at the chance when Great Red offered to convert into that of a partial humanoid true dragon. Plus when you unlocked your previous devil trigger, it was when you got stabbed by that mad priest who was after your father's power." Isay. "Serious? Yeah, if only I knew about the power that came to accepting all parts of myself, then it would have been such a pain in the ass to kill that bastard Mundus and Argasax." Ddraig. Smirks. "Well, now with you fully unlocking your demonic heritage, I can definitely say you will be 2 times stronger than you were before. But you also unlocking your demonic heritage did something else to your body." Isay. "Curious, what did it do?" Ddraig. Smirks. "It seems it helped replenish all of the life force you lost whenever you used the Juggernaut drive in the past, even more so than when you just relied on Senjutsu to replenish it." Isay. "Serious? I see, so it's like a form of being reborn. Well, in that case, since I've reawakened, it's time to fully get rid of the Juggernaut drive for good. Since even though I got rid of all the past wielders of the boosted gear, I still kept on relying on the Juggernaut drive in order to take care of the stronger opponents I had to take on like Mundus and Argasax. So I think it's time to develop a new form, one that is possibly stronger than the Juggernaut drive, but without any of the downfalls when activating." Ddraig. "Serious? I agree, but first things first, you need to train yourself to be able to use the balance breaker, since before it was your desire for power and vengeance that helped awaken the balance breaker, and the second time, though temporarily, was your desire to save the Gremory girl from her arranged marriage. But since you don't hold any feelings for her anymore and your revenge has been satisfied, you will need something else to be your catalyst to unlock the balance breaker." Isay. "Thinking I guess you're right about that, and plus I need to train myself on how to use my father's power, as well as that new transformation I unlocked. I guess I could ask Kaneki to spar with me until something clicks in me in order to achieve it." Ddraig. "Curious, what about Amaterasu and the other Shinto gods, since you were able to unlock it while training with them?" Isay. "Serious? Well, to be honest, now that I unlocked my heritage, I don't think they will be able to handle my newfound strength. No, I need to spar with people who are on par with Aniki, Oji-san, and Ani-san's level if I want to make proper results. Plus that I would mean I still need to stay in this universe if I did that." Ddraig. "Serious, partner, you're not really considering." Isay. "Serious? Think about it, Ddraig, now that I unlocked my demonic heritage, everyone in the supernatural will be coming after me, whether it's to get me to join their side, they see me as an enemy, to help reproduce their next generation of soldiers or weapons, or possibly just to fight them. I can't train to regain my strength with people like that in our world, and plus if I'm going to take Asia with me, then I will no doubt have to train her, since I could see the look in her eyes, she's curious about her newfound heritage, and will no doubt want to explore it. In which I will have no choice but to train her, since once the supernatural world, especially the church in heaven, find out that she has the right eye, they might do almost anything to get her onto their side." Ddraig. "Serious? I see, I guess in that logic that does make sense, since we do not know how long exactly will it take for you to not only master your father's power, but also regain mastery over the boosted gear as well." Since you have regained your memories as well as your essentially true body, I should be able to establish with great dread. I will contact him about the situation and what you want to do while you go upstairs and get the nun girl up to speed on everything. Issei nods. Right, talk to you later, Ddraig. Once Issei disconnected with his communication with Ddraig, the white-haired boy looked over to the 8 pawn pieces that were ejected out of his body and picked them up, in which he activated a magic circle which created an orb around the pieces. Issei serious now. Not even a Juka will sense that there is something wrong with my evil pieces. Sad and honestly, Rias, I'm so disappointed in you. Even now with my memories back, I thought you might have been close as his eyes. Well, it's too late now. What's done is done, and there is nothing that not even the dragon gods can do. All I can do is what I've always done since that night. Serious, and that is to keep moving forward and getting stronger. Looks up in the ceiling. It's funny, to be honest, for some reason I should be furious at you, but I'm not. I guess it's because my draconian and demonic sides are working in tandem and essentially telling me to not value something minuscule at this size. I guess all I can say is that I hope you are happy with your decision, Rias Gremory. Serious now then to make a call. It was then Isay activated a communication circle on his ear and made a call to someone. After a few moments a female voice emerged from the other side of the circle. Curious, who is this? Isay serious, it's me. Shocked Isay Sama, is that really you then? If you are calling me then. Isay serious, yes, my seals have been broken. Confused, but how? The seal was supposed to last until you reach the limit of your human lifespan, so how did? Isay serious, I'll explain everything later, but first there's something I need to know. How fast can you get Kuo? Scene change. Hyoudou residence, upstairs. After Isay finished his call with a mysterious woman, he decided to head upstairs to meet up with Asia, since he figured he was down there for a while and probably made the poor young nun worried about his safety. When he opened the door to the upstairs part of the house, he saw Asia was still there waiting for him patiently, which made the white-haired boy a little bit guilty for taking so long in the first place. Although he wasn't prepared for the reaction that Asia had when she laid eyes on his appearance, the poor blonde's face became crimson red with steam coming out of her ears. Asia was even having trouble forming words, even more so than usual when she became flustered. Asia completely red as ... Is Isay-san, is that you look different. Isay confused him. Looks at his hero, smiles nervously. Sorry, I guess I didn't take into account how you would react after what I did. Asia completely red. Is Isay-san, you look so handsome. Isay chuckles. Yes, it would appear so. Asia curious but still a bit pink. Isay-san, what happened to you? Isay smiles softly. I guess it's time I told you who I really am. Asia confused. Huh? It was then Isay told Asia to please follow him into the kitchen, and as the white-haired boy was making tea for the both of them, the blonde-haired girl couldn't help stare in awe at Isay and his new looks. The blonde-haired girl already had a crush on Isay, and that was despite him being a pervert, since despite his perverted antics, the ex-nun the kindness and purity in Isay's heart and soul. Now whether or not it was because she inherently wielded the right of eyelight she did not know, nor did she care, because she loved Isay all the same. Now he has looks that match the beauty of his soul. Even though Asia did feel bad too what happened to Isay earlier, but a part of her couldn't help but see this as an opportunity to hopefully get Isay to see her as a girl worthy of his love and not as a possible, but even she knew that alone might take time, since no doubt Isay will not want to think about being with someone at the current moment. Especially after what happened to him with Rainer and now Rias, who Asia knew Isay had romantic feelings for, and she didn't want Isay to think she was another girl that would end up breaking his heart. But if she learned anything from watching Isay against Riser during their raiding game, it's that it's to never give up, no matter how many you get knocked down, and she was going to do just that. She was going to do her very best to help Isay's broken heart and see more than as a sister. It was then her thoughts on the matter were interrupted when Isay placed a cup of tea in front of her, which when the young blonde took a sip of the tea she was shocked, was able to make such a delicious cup tea. If she was being honest, this tea was better than a Keno-senpai tea. Asia amazed. Isay-san, this tea is amazing. Isay smiles softly. Why thank you, Asia. Asia curious. So you told me that you would tell me who you really are, but I don't understand, aren't you just Issei Hyoudou? Isay serious. Asia, do you know the legend of Sparda? At that, Asia's eyes sparkled with joy and excitement, since she knew very well about the legend of Sparda, the story of the legendary Dark Knight, since it was her second favorite book to read next to the Holy Bible. Asia smiles happily while clapping her hands together. How could I not? In the church I grew up in reading about the legendary Dark Knight Sparda, who helped save the world from the evil demon King Mundus. It was my second favorite book to read next to the Holy Bible. It was that story that made me believe that maybe even a devil could have a heart and learn to be kind just like Sparda did. Isay curious with an raised eyebrow. They had a story about a demon being a hero in a church that worships the biblical god. if that was your second favorite story, then how come you didn't have it with you when you came to Kuo? Asia. A bit sad, and well, you see, when I awakened my twilight healing and was transferred to one of more important churches, they told me that I couldn't have a story about a demon. All of the things protecting humanity were considered heresy, and I had only focused on the teachings of the church. But the story was made by a bunch of pagan and demon worshippers who were trying to spread lies and trying to convince people to turn away from God. Issei, mind. Serious, I guess that makes sense since God is dead, and with Michiel and the other 3 archangels barely maintaining the system, they wouldn't want anything like that threatening it. Although if they knew that Asia had the right of eye along with twilight healing, they would have covered it up and probably made Asia a pseudo-high-ranking officer of the church. Though I suppose it could possibly negatively affect the system, but also the angels as well, since that would be considered lying, and with the limited amount of angels that heaven has right now, they really can't risk any more of them falling from grace. Eyes, but then again, even if they had their top researchers and scientists, they wouldn't have known that Asia would have the right eye, since unlike other sacred gears, the eyes of the world are not bound to the system and are bound to a specific bloodline, hence they cannot be awakened or be detected like normal sacred gears. Not even Azazel, who is one of the 2 leading experts on sacred gears, wouldn't be able to find out if any one of us had the eyes of the world. Issei. Serious, I see. Asia, do you know how the story ended? Asia. Thinking it was said that he quietly reigned quietly over the human world until his supposed death, and that's how he became a legend. Issei. Serious, well, that's not the end of that story. Asia. Confused, huh? Issei. Serious, in truth, Sparda was summoned by a witch named Eva, eventually they fell in love and soon enough they conceived a child. Asia. Shocked, Sparda married a human and had a child. Thinking, wait a minute, you also said that your mother was a witch and that she summoned a demon that was eyes widen in realization, huh? Issei. Smirks, HMPH, it seems you figured it out. Asia. Beyond shocked, it can't be, Issei-sen, you're telling me that. Issei. Serious, that is correct, Asia. I was that child. My real name is Issei Sparda, son of the legendary Dark Knight Sparda and the legendary Witch of Time Eva. Asia was beyond to think that the boy who she had a crush on since they first turned out to be the son of possibly the greatest hero that this world had ever seen. The young blonde did not have the words to express how shocked she was, but before she could even think of what she was about to say, a yellow magic circle appeared on the living room floor which startled her. Asia. Startled, what is that? Issei. Raises an eyebrow, she sure took her time. What came out of the magic circle was a tall, tan-skinned, white-haired young woman with a slim yet shapely figure and gold-green eyes. She has a rabbit tail and rabbit ear-shaped horns. Her attire consisted of a maid attire similar to that of Grafia wore when the now white-haired boy first met her. When the woman saw Issei, she couldn't help but have an expression of joy, but there was one thing that for some reason caught Issei's attention. Issei, mind. Curious, is it me or did her breasts get bigger than the last time I saw her? Smiles with joy, Issei-sama, you've awakened. I am overjoyed to have finally see you again. Asia. Confused, huh? Issei. Smiles softly, it is good to see you again, Zest, though I wish it was under better circumstances. Asia. Confused, Issei-san, who is this woman? Issei. Smiles softly, oh yes, Asia, this Zest, a loyal companion of mine. Zest. Bows respectfully, greetings, my name is Zest and I am the servant and maid for Lord Sparda. Asia. Bows nervously, oh, my name is Asia Argento, it's a pleasure to meet you. Zest. Smiles softly, it's a pleasure to meet you as well, Asia Argento. Looks towards Issei-sama, I need to know, what do you mean that you wish it was under better circumstances? Curious, that's what I would like to know. Zest. Asia. Confused, huh? Issei. Curious, well, I didn't expect you of all people to come here. At the entrance of the Hyoudou stood Chisato Hasegawa with a stoic expression on her face. Zest had more of a deadpan expression, even though there was a slightly irritated expression in her eyes at the sight of Chisato coming here of all people. Asia was possibly panicking since she didn't want the school nurse to be showing up to Issei's house unannounced, and now that she might explain the supernatural to her. All the while Issei maintained a neutral expression, even though he was a bit curious as to how she was able to find him. Asia. Panicking, oh Chisato-sensei, what are you doing here? Chisato. Stoic looks at Issei while giving away a soft smile, well, are you just standing there, are you gonna say hello to me? I mean, it has been almost 3 years since we've last seen each other. Issei. Serious, what are you doing here, Ishtar? Asia. Confused, huh? Who is Ishtar? Issei. Serious, Ishtar is one of the last Mesopotamian goddess that still walks among us, she is the goddess of war and sex. Asia was honestly beyond shocked to think that the school nurse was actually a goddess in disguise, but then again the young blonde shouldn't be too surprised, since Chisato was extremely sought after, more so than Rias or Akeno. But before Asia could respectfully bow to the beautiful goddess, said goddess was right next to Issei with a seductive smile on her face, while cupping Issei's cheek. This of course annoyed Zest since she knew from experience that Ishtar always did this whenever she and her beloved master would interact. All the while Asia couldn't help but pout in envy at how forward Ishtar was being with Issei. If she was being honest, she was acting just like both Rias and Akeno senpai. Ishtar? Smile seductively. Well, I'm waiting, beloved. Asia? Shocked, beloved. Issei? Serious? How the hell did you find me, Ishtar? Ishtar? Giggles, smiles while cupping his cheek. It wasn't that hard, I mean honestly, Ice. Even though you used magic to change your eye color, as well as removing that white streak, you had the fact that you kept your first name, made it easy to locate you. On top of the fact you decided to return to the place of your birth. I mean, your father did govern this town a while ago, did he not? Asia? Shocked, Sparda ruled over Kuo before Rias senpai. Issei? Nods, not exactly. You see, at the time when Shinto gods allowed the devils to establish a base here in their lands, a majority of the Shinto pantheon were still kind of skeptical about letting them roam around freely in their lands, since as you know devils are greedy and mischievous by nature, and some of them believed that this would be a perfect opportunity to take out their pantheon and completely take over their lands. That's when my father came into the picture. You see, my father has helped many factions in secret in the past, which in turn gained him a lot of allies from a lot of factions in the supernatural. One of them was of course being the Shinto pantheon. All of the gods, including the primordial Shinto deities, trusted my father since despite being a demon, he was a man of honor above anything else. As such, they asked to essentially to secretly watch over the devils so that they wouldn't try anything sneaking, and he did just that. My father would secretly watch over both the residents of Japan while maintaining a strict eye on the devils, making sure there wasn't form betrayal or deceit from them until the Shinto pantheon knew for certain that they could be trusted. Serious? I see, so the rumors of Sparda actually ruling Kuo are true. Everyone? Startled, huh? Issei? Slightly annoyed, goddammit. At the entrance of the living room where Ishtar once was stood a tall man appearing to be in his 20s with an average build, black hair, golden bangs and black goatee. He wore grey yukata and sandals. Upon seeing him, Asia became nervous since she could sense the amount of aura that the man had, while both Zest and Ishtar were on the defensive since they knew who this person was and what he could do. Issei? Serious? What are you doing here, Azazel? Asia? Gasp, as in the leader of the fallen angels. Azazel? Smirks. It's good to see you again, devil boy, or should I say son of Sparda. Zest? Serious? Flattery will not get you anywhere, governor of the fallen angels. Now answer my master's question or else leave for good. Azazel? Puts his hands up. Whoa, easy there, I'm not here to fight. Grins, especially with a beauty such as yourself. If you want we can go get a drink later and enjoy each other's company. Zest? Growls in annoyance. Grr. It was then a couple of magic circles appeared around Azazel, and out came 4 spears made out of enchanted steel, all surrounded around Azazel's neck. This of course made the governor of the fallen angels gulp nervously, since if he made one wrong move, then he was a goner, and the glare that he was receiving from Zest did not help. All the while Issei couldn't help but be impressed by how much stronger she has become since the 3 years they have been apart. Issei, mind. Smirks. HMPH. I must admit Zest has gotten stronger since the last time I saw her, seeing that she is able to evolve from standard earth magic to iron steel magic. No doubt she must have asked someone like Nikki or the others to help train her so that she could get to that point. Zest? Glares. Don't think I don't know about your reputation, Azazel. I'm not dumb, some woman who you can easily swoon over for an easy one-night stand, because I do have standards. The only man who can have his way with me is my master Issei Sparda, since my mind, body and soul belong to him and him alone. Issei? Serious? Well, a bit pink. I don't know if I should be happy or embarrassed at this point. Issei, mind. Curious? Well, a bit pink, although for some reason I can't help but have a sense of pride when she said that. Ishtar? Smiled seductively while cupping his cheek. Well, you shouldn't be, beloved, because I genuinely feel the same way. You are no doubt the only man worthy of being with me. Issei? Blushes nervously. Ishtar? Upon hearing that, Zest's glare was directed towards Ishtar, the way she was getting all too close to her master. All the while Asia couldn't help but pout in jealousy, since the way Issei was acting was just like how Rias would get close and affectionate towards him. Zest? Eyes narrowed. I don't know if you should be saying that, Ishtar, since last time I checked my master did not accept your feelings or your advancements. Ishtar? Smirks. HMPH. Are you really sure about that? I mean, look at him. I can tell deep down he is slowly developing feelings for me and is starting to accept my love. Zest? Eyes narrowed. TSK. That is because you are taking advantage of his released carnal desires with you pressing your breasts against his body. As Zest and Ishtar were essentially arguing about who Issei loved and cared about the most, Azazel couldn't help but sweat drop as well, feel a bit envious of how a boy who not even in his 20s was able to get two beauties with one of them who is actually more sought after than Gabriel herself. Then there was Isay, who couldn't help but feel embarrassed about the whole conversation since mostly Asia was here and he didn't want her to think he was some kind of player like Riser before he sealed his memories. Azazel, mind. Sweat drops, man, I can't believe he even got Ishtar of all people fawning over him, and if he could do that then no doubt he could probably make someone like Gabriel fall for him. Damn, so this is the true power of Sparda, truly a terrifying power to never be underestimated. Isay, mind. Sweat drops, well, a bit embarrassed, father please help me. Zest. Smirks, well in any case I don't want to hear it from an old hag who is going after a young boy, especially after being rejected by one man and letting another claim being with you just because you felt sorry for him. Smirks smugly, it's honestly hard to believe that you are a goddess of sex when you are obviously a virgin. Azazel. Shocked, wait, she's a virgin. Ishtar. Growls in annoyance, don't get all so high and mighty, since last time I checked you're also a virgin. Zest. Smirks, that may be true, but unlike you still experience being with a man, since I felt the magnificent touch of Issei Sama, and even after 3 years being apart, I could still remember the sensation of him dominating me. Azazel. Raises an eyebrow in shock, whoa. Looks at Issei suspiciously, damn kid, just how old were you when that was happening? Issei. Sweat drops, it's complicated. Asia. Covers her mouth in shock while blushing like crazy. Issei-san, are you not pure? Issei. Smiles weakly, relax Asia, I'm still a virgin. Ishtar. Smirks smugly while holding Issei closer, oh, but I have felt his touch, very much so. Everyone. Shocked, what? Zest. Eyes narrowed, what do you mean by that Ishtar, answer me. Ishtar. Smirks, you see, while you being a good little maid staying away from him as per his orders, I had Issei all to myself for a whole year. Zest. Shocked, you what? Ishtar. Giggles, that's right, for a whole year I've essentially been like a wife to sweet Issei here. I've been looking after him, cooking, cleaning, and patching him up, with the added thrill of being in a taboo relationship between teacher and student made it all so enticing. Issei. Shocked, so you mean all those times that you? Ishtar. Nods, that's right, smiles seductively, but I think the biggest step in our relationship was when we took a bath together. Azazel. Asia. Zest. Shocked, you two took a bath together? Issei. Panics, what the hell, Ishtar, I thought you said that was supposed to be our little secret. Azazel. Mind. Cries comedically, goddamn it. This kid got to see the legendary naked body of the goddess Ishtar all to himself. Damn you Issei Sparda, you've just made an enemy, you have officially the enemy of all men. Asia. Shocked, Issei-san, when was this? I know you said that Chisato-sensei would come by from time to time, but it was only to cook and clean for you. Issei. Blushes nervously, well you see. Ishtar. Smiles, it was the day after Issei defeated Riser. Flashback. 1 week earlier. It was the day after Isay defeated Riser Phenex and won Rias Gremory's freedom. Currently Isay was walking towards the nurse's office with a bruised hand after receiving it from peeking on the kendo club once again. Now normally he would meet up with Asia in the Orc so she could heal it for him with her twilight healing, but she was currently in home ec and the brown-haired boy didn't want to disturb her, so he decided to see the nurse. The other reason Isay decided to go to the nurse's office was because he thought it would be nice to visit Chisato again since he became a devil. He sadly did not have as much time to visit or spend time with the black-haired beauty, so he thought this would be a good way for them to catch up, so to speak. Though when he walked inside he saw she wasn't in her chair. Isay. Curious, hello. Hasegawa-sensei, are you here? I kind of bruised my hand again. Chisato. Stoico. Isay, is that you? Isay. Curious, yeah. Chisato. Stoic, you came at the perfect time, sorry, but can you come over here? Isay. Curious, yeah, excuse me. Blushes madly, huh. When Isay entered the curtains, what he saw would no doubt change his life forever, but as well as never seeing Chisato Hasegawa the same way again. What the brown-haired saw was Chisato wearing a black zip-up bikini with green accents on the sides of her stomach, all while still wearing her nurse's coat. Upon seeing such a splendid sight, the brown-haired boy couldn't help but have a goofy perverted grin on his face, since the sight of it was even too much to bear witness to. Isay, mind. Grins pervertedly, man, this is why Hasegawa-sensei is the best. She looks like she's one of those erotic professors who only wear just their lab coats and essentially nothing else. Having in realization, hold on a minute, smiles happily, I'm the only guy here who gets to witness this all-inspiring beauty sent from the heavens. Ddraig, mind. Eyes narrowed, so it's just as I thought, Ishtar is here. Sighs in annoyance, I told that idiot that he should have gone with a different first name like Virgil or something. If Ishtar found us, then there's no telling who else from his old group may have figured out that he is here. Sighs, but given that she hasn't really triggered anything to forcibly regain his memories, means that she knows that he just wants to live a normal life. Sweat drops while deadpanning, although if I know anything then no doubt this thirsty goddess is taking advantage of the situation and trying to make Issei essentially fall in love with her so that even when he does get his memories back then he will no doubt still want to be with her. Issei, mind. Shakes head furiously. No, smacks cheek together. Come on, snap out of it, Hyoudou. This is Hasegawa-sensei we're talking about. You need to be polite and not show her that you are not some horn dog. Blushes in embarrassment, plus she's your teacher, and no doubt some handsome guy will come along and take her as his girlfriend or wife, and I don't want to ruin any chances of her being happy if the boyfriend finds out that she is dealing with a pervert like me all the time. Ddraig, mind. Raises an eyebrow. I guess even with his memories sealed he is still resistant to her charms. I wonder how he would react if I told him that he was the handsome husband that she was looking for. Issei. Blushes nervously. What are you doing? Dessato. Stoic while grabbing her straps. Oh well, I was asked to help supervise the girls' swimming classes. There weren't standard swimsuits that fit me, casually tugging on her straps, so I had this one specially made, but the zipper got snagged. Issei. Looks away while blushing nervously. Oh, I see that, too bad. Dessato. Stoic while tilting her head a bit. Sorry, but can you help me get the zipper undone? Issei. Blinks in confusion. Completely ready. It was then Chisato pushed up her breast, signifying to Issei please help her. The brown-haired boy didn't know what to think. One hand it felt like he was giving permission to touch Chisato's breasts, but at the same time he felt like he really had no other but to help her. Now the smart thing to do would have been to find a female student to come over and help her like the one in the orc. But he didn't know how long that would take, and he couldn't just leave Chisato like this, especially if someone else were to come and see her like this. It was then Issei decided to steel his resolve and completely tone down his perverted nature. He decided to help Chisato undo her zipper. Chisato. Stoic, please Ice-kun, you're the only one I could trust to do this. Issei. Gulps nervously. I guess I can help. It was then the brown-haired boy took a tight hold on the zipper and tried his best to get it unstuck, but much to Issei's disappointment, this zipper was not coming off. Issei. Serious? Yeah, it stuck pretty bad and I don't break it either. Thinking. As Issei thought of a way to hopefully, he remembered that there was a bottle of foam soap that might help loosen the whole zipper. When the brown-haired boy went to grab the soap and came back, the black-haired beauty was confused on what Issei was planning on doing. Issei. Serious? Hasegawa-sensei, do you mind if I use this? Chisato. Stoic, go ahead if you think it will work. It was then Issei then began spraying the soap along the zipper line of Chisato's swimsuit, but when Issei got to the area where her breasts were, Chisato began to moan slightly, which startled Issei a bit. Chisato. Moans while blushing. Issei. Startled while blushing. Chisato. Stoic while still a bit pink. It's alright, please continue. Confused, except won't this make the zipper slippery and difficult to hold? Issei. Serious, it will be okay. Chiasto. Blushes while breathes a bit heavily. Once Issei put the soap to the side, he then placed his hands within the fabric of Chisato's swimsuit while pulling a bit back so that he wasn't actually touching her breast. Issei. Serious, now let's give it a try. 1 2 3. Zip. It was then Issei forcibly opened up Chisato's swimsuit, which thankfully worked since it did not destroy her swimsuit. But when Issei saw the state that Chisato was in which soap was on top of her naked breasts, the brown-haired boy couldn't but stare in awe as well as have a nosebleed. Issei, mind. Blushes in awe. I'm actually bearing witness to Chisato-sensei's op-eye. Issei. Blushes in awe. Chisato. Stoic, well that was a bit rough, don't you think? Issei. Blushes nervously. I'm sorry. It was then Issei quickly got out of the room so that Chisato could clean herself up, all the while changing out her swimsuit. Chisato. Stoic, I'm not mad, you know, I just wasn't expecting you to strip me so forcefully. Issei. Blushes in embarrassment. Chisato. Giggles, thanks to you, I didn't have to cut up my new swimsuit. Issei. Blushes nervously. Yeah, nervously scratches his cheek. I'm just glad that I was here to help you out. Chisato. Curious, Ice-kun, do you have any plans after school today? Issei. Curious, no, Buchu decided to give us a day off after coming back from our trip. Chisato. Smiles, well in that case how about dinner? Issei. Curious, Time skip. After that little incident, Chiasto and Issei made plans to meet at the school's parking lot at the end of the day. Issei already told Asia to just go home herself and have dinner since he will be home late, and when the blonde asked what Issei was doing, he simply said that he made plans with someone after school and he was gonna have dinner, to which the blonde girl believed him. Currently both Issei and Chisato were on their way to their destination in Chisato's car, which was a very expensive looking sports car which surprised and confused Issei, since there was no way someone could afford a car like this on a school nurse's salary, even if it's from a prestigious academy, which made the brown-haired boy think that Chisato must come from a wealthy family or something. Despite all of that, the ride made Issei really nervous since he wasn't used to this much luxury. Chisato. Stoic, that's my apartment building right there. Issei. Curious, huh? When Issei looked up, he saw a very tall and expensive looking apartment building, which he felt like only celebrities or billionaire bachelors would be able to live in and afford, which further confirmed Issei's theory about Chisato, probably coming from a wealthy background. Giasto. Curious, what's wrong? Issei. Startled, oh, it's nothing, I just thought we were going to a restaurant. Chisato. Smiles softly, don't you miss my home cooking? Issei. Nervous, of course I do, I mean without your cooking I would have been mostly eating just pizza for the rest of my life. Chisato. Smiles softly, I'm glad to hear that, you know this will be my first time bringing a man to my room. Upon hearing that, Issei's face became redder than Ria's hair, since him, a student as well as being considered an enemy to all women, was going to be officially the first man that she ever let into her home. But at the same time the brown-haired boy couldn't help feel such an immense amount of pride, since he felt like he won first place for an Olympic sport. But those were interrupted when Chisato spoke again. Chisato. Smiles softly, and since given your reputation at school, this will be your first time being invited to a woman's room, correct? Issei. Blushes nervously, oh yeah. Chisato. Smiles, well then let's make our first time be something that we will never forget. Issei. Completely red, alright. Scene change. Chisato's apartment. Issei had just finished eating the meal that Chisato had made, which was filled with all of his favorite foods. The brown-haired boy really couldn't help but feel like he was in bliss, since, even though Asia has been cooking for him since she moved in with him, sadly it was nothing compared to Chisato's cooking, who was just as good as his late mother's cooking. Chisato. Smiles softly, so how is it? Issei. Smiles happily, it's the best as always, Chisato-sensei. Giasto. Smiles softly, I'm glad you like it. Issei. Smiles happily, honestly Chisato, if you ever get yourself a boyfriend or a husband, I will be so jealous because he gets to have all this yummy food all to himself. At that comment Chisato couldn't help blush madly at Issei's comment, but at the same time she couldn't help but be a bit overjoyed at Issei's honest opinion about her skills as a cook. When Issei saw the black-haired beauty's facial expression, he panicked, thinking he might have embarrassed her in some way. Issei. Panics, oh please forgive me sensei, I didn't mean to embarrass you like that, that was completely uncalled for, I just spoke the first thing that came out of my mind. Chisato. Smiles softly, well a bit pink, don't worry Ice-kun, you didn't do anything wrong, in fact you made me extremely happy with your comment. Issei. Blushes shyly, oh I see, well I'm glad that I made you happy. Smiles nervously, if you want I could do the dishes if you want. Chisato. Smiles softly, that's alright, washing up the dishes of a meal that's been appreciated is the privilege of any cook. Issei. Smiles, oh okay. Chisato. Smiles softly, in exchange I have a favor to ask you. Issei. Smiles, sure, anything for you Chisato-sensei. Chisato. Smiles softly, that's good. It was then Issei stood behind Chisato as she was continuing washing the dishes. To say the brown-haired boy was nervous would be an understatement, since the favor asked of Issei was definitely questionable for a student to do to their teacher, and vice versa. Issei. A bit nervous, are you really sure? Chisato. Stoic, yes, please do it. Issei. Nervous if you insist. It was then Issei got closer to Chisato and hugged her from behind with his arms wrapping around her waist. Issei. A bit nervous, is this okay? Chisato. Smiles softly with her eyes closed, it feels really good. It's nice too for you speak so softly into my ear, Ice-kun. Issei. Looks down on her breast, looks away while blushing nervously. Chisato. Smiles softly, I hate to ask, but what's it like when you do this with Asia? Issei. Blushes embarrassingly, me and Asia don't do anything like this, like come on, to be honest, I see Asia as more of a little sister than anything. Chisato. Smiles softly, I see, so you two don't do anything like this? It was then Chisato then started to rub her ass against Issei's crotch, which caught the brown-haired boy off guard, especially now that he needed to prevent his perverted thoughts and hormonal desires from going wild and getting an erection. Issei. Blushes nervously, we don't do anything like that. Chisato. Smiles softly, if you say so. A good teacher should always be able to trust her student after all. Issei. Blushes nervously, but a good teacher shouldn't be teasing her students like this. You better be careful or else you'll pay for this one day. Chisato. Giggles, smiles softly, I'll be looking forward to that. Curious, hey Issei. Issei. Curious, yeah. Chisato. Stoic, it doesn't have to for longer, but can you hold me even tighter? It was then in one swift motion Issei turned Chisato's body to face him, in which the brown-haired boy brought Chisato into a tight embrace, which shocked the black-haired beauty of how much her student was essentially taking charge. But nevertheless Chisato truly did enjoy the soft embrace of Issei, wrapping his arms around her and becoming this close to him to the point that she could hear his heartbeat, which was soft and soothing. Chisato smiled softly while snuggling closer to Issei's strange request from your teacher. Issei, serious, I'll stop whenever you want me to. Chisato smiled softly, no doubt, I want to stay just like this. Time skip. 10 minutes later. After finally separating from their tight and warming embrace, Issei tried to leave Chisato's apartment but stopped by the black-haired beauty, saying that he couldn't go home to Asia smelling like her perfume. It was then she suggested Issei to take a bath here while she put his clothes in the laundry. Currently Issei in the bath trying to clean himself up, but couldn't help but feel extremely nervous, since it was one thing to visit Chisato's home, but to be in her shower was a completely different story. Everything was going well all of a sudden when Chisato came into the bathroom with a lime green towel wrapped around her body. Issei panics while blushing, hey, I wasn't finished yet. Shyly turns around, what do you think you're doing here? Chisato stoic, after summer vacation last year a lot of the students asked me for romantic advice. Issei blushing nervously, okay, but what does that have to do with you being in here with me? Chisato stoic, well, I never had any romantic experiences before. Ddraig mind sweat drops, you mean never had any successful romantic experience before? Chisato stoic, so I invited you to hopefully help me understand their feelings a bit better. Issei curious, wait, so that's why you asked me over? Chisato stoic, not exactly, since in a way I have missed you, Issei. Ever since you joined the orc you haven't come by to say hi or talk to me. So it made me feel you have forgotten all about me, which hurt me a bit, especially after all the time we spent together for the past year. This past year I have learned what it's like to cook and clean for a man, and just earlier a man's touch thanks to you, so I was hoping I would be able to experience taking a bath with him as well. Issei looks down while feeling a bit guilty, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you feel that way. It's just that ever since I've joined the orc, I have been super busy to the point that by the time I have any time to relax, I sometimes don't have the energy to enjoy the things I want to do. But that shouldn't be an excuse, since you are right, you have done a lot for me ever since I first came to Kuo Academy. Not only have you cooked and cleaned for me, but you were the only woman who wasn't afraid or grossed out to be around me, despite being called by the female students the enemy of all women. I should have made some time for you, at least being able to say hi to you and see how you were doing. But I guess a part of me always thought that you only saw me as a student that you needed to look after, and now that I have the orc in Asia I didn't think you needed to look after anymore. Giasto mind said an Issei. Chisato smiles softly, nonsense Ice-kun, you are not just a student, you have become someone that I care and treasure deeply, and as such you are the only one I can trust to help me. Issei surprised Chisato-sensei. Chisato smiles softly, so will help me experience what it is like to share a bath with a man. Issei blushes nervously, sighs, very well, it's the least I can do for everything you've done for me. Chisato smiles softly, great, then let me start by washing your back. Issei nervous, sure. Flashback end. When Issei finished his story he explained that after the kiss he unknowingly passed out due to the heat, although he didn't tell them about the strange erotic dream he had while he was passed out in which he had his way with Ishtar. But nevertheless when he finally finished, Azazel, Asia, and Zest were shocked by what Issei told them. Asia couldn't help but slump down and pout that Ishtar had gotten closer to Issei, and even more so than Rias did. Azazel couldn't but also feel a bit envious at this boy, since even before unlocking his heritage, he was able to swoon, no doubt one of the two most beautiful goddess in the entire supernatural world. But he calmed himself since he knew it must be a descendant of the legendary Dark Knight, must be difficult in more ways than one, since he remembered how a lot of women back then wanted to be with Sparda, but he refused all of them, but also the fact he didn't want to make enemies with the son of Sparda out being jealousy. Then there was Zest, who was actually fuming with jealousy and glaring daggers at the goddess for trying to get that closer to her beloved master. While she was away following her master's order to not make contact with him, as well as training to become stronger so that when the time came for them to reunite, she wouldn't be such a burden. Upon seeing her love rival acting all worked up, she decided to reveal something else that happened during that night. Ishtar smiled seductively, oh, but beloved, you didn't just stop at stealing my first kiss. Azazel Asia Zest shocked, what? Issei shocked, what are you talking about? I thought you said I passed out after we kissed. Ishtar smiled seductively, yes, you were indeed unconscious, but your body was not. Issei sweats nervously, Ishtar, what are you saying? Ishtar Smiles seductively. What I'm saying is your mind was gone, your draconic instincts took over and blushes, while holding both of her cheeks, you completely ravaged me. Everyone. Shocked what? Issei. Completely shocked while being completely red what? Ishtar. Smiles while blushing. Why yes, it was that night we became one. Zestasia. Shocked you became one. Azazel, mind. Comedically cries goddamn it, this was able to take the virginity of one of the most beautiful goddesses in existence. Damn you Issei Sparda, damn you. Issei. Completely red while panicking. No way. That can't be true, even if that was the case you would have stopped right. Seeing the panic in her beloved eyes, it was then Ishtar came closer to Issei's ear and explained to the white-haired boy what actually happened after he passed out. Ishtar, whisper. Smile seductively. Relax, we're still virgins technically speaking at least. Issei. Confused huh? Ishtar, whisper. Smile seductively. I'm pretty sure that you already figured out that Ddraig needed to undo a small portion of your seals in order to defeat Riser, correct? Well, when we were having intimate moments you unknowingly activated a portion of Great Red's power and drew our consciousness into a dreamlike world where you did have your way with me. Issei, mind. Serious? Oh, that dream I had were just my memories being in the dream world with Ishtar. I guess not only do I need to make a new version of Juggernaut Drive, but it also seems that I also need to learn how to use Iniki's power as well. Eyes narrowed, but I wonder why I wasn't able to use it before. Why now? Ishtar, whisper. Smirk seductively. Well, in any case, how about fill you in on some of the details that you may have forgotten. Everyone was curious as to what the ancient goddess was whispering to Issei. The white-haired boy in question began spewing a waterfall of blood out of his nose, signifying that a part of him was definitely aroused at the sum of the things that both him and the sex goddess did in the bathroom. Asia. Concerned but still a bit jealous. Issei-san, please control yourself. Issei. Startled huh? Smiles nervously. Sorry about that Asia-chan. Asia. Pouts with jealousy. Was your first time with Ishtar-san really that good? Issei. Smiles weakly. Relax Asia-chan, I'm still technically a virgin. Zest Azazel. Raises an eyebrow. Technically? Issei. Smiles weakly. Let's just say that me and Ishtar were one, but just not physically. At that both Asia and Zest sighed in relief, since their master crush was still pure, especially Asia, since if anything she wanted to be Issei's first. Zest was also glad, since if her master's purity was taken when she was gone, since she wanted to be at least one of the first few girls that Issei will want to be with, since she knew that before he sealed his memories away, that her master attracted a couple of people, with two of them being a certain goddess and a certain dragon. Ishtar. Pouts. Ah beloved, do you really need to tell them that here? I thought I was gonna have you all to myself. Issei. Sighs in annoyance with his eyes closed. You know just as well as I that will never happen. As a dragon I'm going to be bound to a lot of females whether I like it or not. As such, it wouldn't be out of my realm possibilities to actually have a harem. After Issei said that, he opened eyes to see both Ishtar and Zest completely gobsmacked on what he just said, in which they both quickly ran over to the white-haired boy to see if there was something wrong with him. All the while both Azazel and Asia were confused as to why the two beauties were so confused on what Issei just said. Issei. Confused with an raised eyebrow. Are you too Auri? Ishtar. Concerned. Beloved, are you okay? Did you get hit on the head on the way home? Zest. Concerned while cupping his cheek. Master, were there any abnormalities when your seals were undone? Azazel. Confused with a raised eyebrow. What's wrong? He just said that he was going to have a harem. It's normal for someone who is possessed by a dragon to have a harem. Hell, if I remember correctly, a lot of Dragon Albion hosts had harems back in the day. Asia. Blushes nervously, and Issei-san always said that he wanted to be the harem king. Zest. Concerned. That's the thing. He never showed any interest in starting a harem. Ishtar. Concerned. Even when he hit puberty he said he didn't have any desire of starting a harem and only considered sticking to one woman. This shocked Asia, since if what the two women said was true, then that meant that Issei had room for only one girl in his heart, and she wanted to be that girl. Now knowing that these two women had feelings for him, she thought her chances of that happening were just as the same when he was fawning over Rias, but worse. But the one who was most shocked was Issei himself, since both girls were right, since now that he remembered correctly, he never showed any interest in being in a polygamist relationship and thought of being a traditionalist and just settling down with one girl. As he was wondering what was going on, a green gem appeared on his left hand and out came Ddraig's voice to answer that question. Ddraig. Serious? I can answer that question. Issei. Shocked Ddraig. Does this mean that you finished speaking with Aniki? Ddraig. Serious? Yes, he's already getting set up for you and your group. He'll be waiting for you once you and your group are ready to move out. Curious, I see that the governor of the fallen angels is here as well. Azazel. Smirks. Hey Ddraig, it's been a while. I have to say I'm impressed to think you would have the son of the legendary Dark Knight as your host. Makes me wonder who would actually win, you or Albion's host. Ddraig. Smirks HMPH. Obviously my host wins hands down, even if Albion does have the descendant of Lucifer as his host, that brat is still light years away from even reaching my partner's current level of strength. Azazel. Shocked. Wait, how did you? Issei. Raises an eyebrow. Please Azazel, you really didn't think I wouldn't check in on who my rival is supposed to be? I know who Vali is, his past, his potential, and even though I was essentially asleep for 3 years, I can already roughly guess how strong he is without going into the Juggernaut drive. So though I will admit he is powerful thanks to him having the power of the original Lucifer flowing through his veins, but that power is nothing compared to the power of my father, Sparda. Azazel. Curious, but if that's the case, how come Albion didn't sense Ddraig when he had awakened, or if you were nearby? Issei. Serious, I didn't want anyone getting in the way of my revenge, and as such I had my godfather place a special seal on the boosted gear so that Albion wouldn't be able to sense where Ddraig was or if he had already awakened. But if you are wondering if I ever would have done this to get the jump on Vali, then the answer is no, because the last thing I need is to tarnish Ddraig's reputation by killing Albion's host with a sneak attack. Azazel. Serious, I see. Issei. Serious. In any case, what did you mean you could answer what was going on with me? Ddraig. Serious. Well, it seems that Zest was partially right about there being an abnormality when your memories were undone. Issei. Curious, how so? Ddraig. Serious, it's nothing serious or fatal, but simply some of the aspects that made Issei Hyoudou stuck with you and is now merging with your original personality. Hence now you are now open to building a harem whereas before you weren't. Issei. Sweat drops. But wait, one of the biggest aspects that made me, Issei Hyoudou, was that I was a breast loving perverted idiot. So are you saying that I'm still going to be a massive pervert? Ddraig. Serious, not entirely, or at least not when you were Issei Hyoudou, in which you'll most likely still have your perverted tendencies, but now having your original personality you will most likely be more tamed and controlled. To be honest, I personally see it as being no surprise at all, since you really did repress a lot of your hormonal desires so that you could focus on getting your revenge. So it is no surprise that when your old memories and personality were sealed away, all of your repressed hormonal desires essentially came to the surface, which made it super easy for you to make friends with those perverted idiots that you called friends. Issei. Sighs in annoyance. I guess there really is no point crying over it, since just like how I recovered all of my life force from fully awakening my demonic heritage, this is essentially me being reborn. So in a way I am neither Issei Hyoudou or Issei Sparda, but in a way both of them at the same time. I'm one and the same. Smiles softly. So I guess I'll at least explore the depths of my new personality and see what kind of path it will take me. Maybe I'll give having a harem a shot, since if Issei Hyoudou was confident enough to have one, so why not Issei Sparda? Ishtar, Zest, and Asia couldn't help but be excited, since if Issei was still willing to have a harem, then it would mean that all 3 of them would have a chance of being with him romantically. Just as their excitement was reaching its limits, another magic circle which got everyone's attention, but this magic circle was different since it was in a form of hexagon, which meant it must be someone from Shinto and Yokai faction. But Issei and Zest knew who the magic circle belonged to, especially since this person essentially helped raise him after the death of his parents alongside his godfather, but was surprised she would be here. Out of the magic circle was beautiful women with long jet black hair and fiery crimson eyes wearing a Japanese shrine maiden attire. The woman radiated the aura of a true Japanese woman. Azazel. Shocked. Amaterasu, what are you doing here? Amaterasu. Serious. Hello Azazel, I should be asking you that. Azazel. Raising an eyebrow. Probably the same reason why you are here, you also felt Sparda's power. Amaterasu. Serious. I did. Looks over to Issei while being sad. No, my poor Oigo-kun, so it's true you undid your seals. Issei. Smiles sadly. It truly has been, hasn't it, Opa-chan? Azazel. Shocked. Amaterasu is your aunt. Amaterasu. Serious. Technically I'm his godmother. You see, I was asked by Issei's mother Eva to look after if anything were to happen to her or Sparda, that I would take him and raise him as my own. Smiles sadly. In fact, I was the one who named him before he was born. Azazel. Curious, you named him? Amaterasu. Smiles sadly. Originally Sparda and Eva wanted to name him Virgil, which meant flourishing, but when I offered the name Issei, both of them fell in love with it. Especially since if anything they both wanted their son to be an honest and sincere man when he grew up. Azazel. Serious. I see. Issei. Smiles sadly. I truly have missed you, Opa-chan. Amaterasu. Smiles softly. So have I, my little Oigo-kun. Saddened but curious, but why would you undo your seals? I thought the plan was to make that at the end of your mortal life, that you would undo your seals. What happened? Issei. Saddened. You all may want to sit down for this while I put up a barrier, since if Azazel and you found out about my leak of demonic energy, then I don't want anyone else showing, especially since I'm in my weakened state. Once Amaterasu nodded her head, Issei told Zest to undo the spell around Azazel so he could sit down. He first briefly explained of who he was and confirmed that was indeed him that killed Mundus 2 years ago, which shocked the governor of the fallen angels, since he couldn't believe that this boy at the age of 15 was able to kill someone who was stronger than his father, the biblical god, and possibly rival the destroyer Shiva. Which proved Ddraig's statement at how much of a power gap both Issei and Vali had, and it would take Vali maybe years to even close Issei's strength. Issei then explains how after the fight, he sealed away both his memories and powers away, along with resetting the boosted gear, so that he could achieve his mother's dream of possibly living a normal life, and that he would undo his seals at the end of his mortal life. But it was then finally explained to everyone on why he undid seals so early, in which he told them after the fight with Riser, Rias began to act differently, in which she became more distant and more aggravated at his perverted antics. On how earlier after he left Azel's place he overheard and saw something that he shouldn't, in which he saw Rias having sex with some guy named Zero, in which they heard their plans to kill Issei and give the boosted gear to Zero. Since at the time Issei developed romantic feelings for Rias, it completely broke his heart. It was then explained how Ddraig, not wanting to see him in this state, he undid his seals and confronted Asia, if she was a part of which thankfully she wasn't a part of it. This made Azazel of course a little bit relieved, since it gave him hope that Akeno may not have been a part of it, since he wouldn't have to tell his best friend Betrayal that his daughter was having sex with some sleazeball and unknowingly killed an innocent boy who would have been a good husband for her. But the governor general was still disappointed in Rias, since even though he knew that Serzicha spoiled his little sister to all hell, he definitely wouldn't approve of her killing the boy that just saved her from an arranged marriage. But still something wasn't clicking in the old fallen angel's head, since he did his research on both of the heiress in this town, and even though Rias is indeed spoiled and can be arrogant, there is no way that she would throw away a member of her peerage just like that, especially if said piece was the Red Dragon Emperor, and now knowing what he knows now can rival the dragon gods themselves. The governor of the fallen angels definitely felt like there was something more to this story, but he wasn't going to say anything, since he didn't have valid proof, to which he was going to need to do some investigating, mainly who this Zero person was. Although sadly for the governor of the fallen angels he was frightened out of he felt the increased power and bloodlust coming from Ishtar, Amaterasu, and Zest. Amaterasu was releasing a large amount of divine aura which was fiery crimson in color, and her hand out came a large ball of black flames. Ishtar also released her divine aura, in which her hair changed from black to golden blonde, and her eyes became blood red. Then there was Zest, who was releasing a deep dark silvery aura, but that wasn't all. Due to her affinity with earth magic, her anger essentially created an earthquake that affected not only all of Japan, but also some parts of eastern China and Russia. Upon seeing Zest releasing so much power, Issei was actually both amazed and impressed in Zest's growth, since before he left, she was at least on par with a Satan. But now he could tell she had really reached the level of a super devil, which she can probably give Ajuka a run for his money, although he wasn't sure about Serzicha's, since dealing with the power of destruction is very tricky to combat against. But he was snapped out of his thoughts when he heard Asia on the floor gasping for air, no doubt from the immense amount of pressure that the three women were releasing, who even Azazel was having some trouble keeping himself from passing out. But nevertheless Issei quickly rushed over to Asia and coated her in his aura so she could breathe. Asia breathes heavily. Issei-san, is that you? Issei smiles sadly. It's me, Asia, and forgive me, I should have known that they would react this way. Amaterasu growls in anger and filled with venom. How dare she? Issei curious. Amaterasu growls in anger and filled with venom. How dare she just casually kill my little Oigo-kun, the one who I helped raise and saw as my very own son, sister of the strongest devil or not, I'll turn both her body and soul until there is nothing left. Ishtar growls in anger and laced with venom. That's it, I don't give a damn who her brother is, and I'll take on the whole underworld if I must, if she dared to do something as vile and despicable to my beloved. Zest growls in anger. Master, just give me your orders and I will quickly exterminate that vile woman and her disgraceful peerage. Issei serious, all of you stop, you're going to break the barrier and draw attention to us. Amaterasu Ishtar Zest growls in anger and fury. Issei serious, I said, demonic enough. It then released some kind of aura that made all three women snap out of their anger and release their aura. But not only did Issei snap them out of their rage, but also they felt weak under his gaze, as if his aura was telling them to submit. When all three of them looked at Issei, both Ishtar and Amaterasu knew exactly what Issei was doing, but they were shocked that he was able to use this variation of it. Ishtar Amaterasu shocked Demon King Haki. But just when things were calming down, a collar-like marking with a heart shape appeared on Zest's neck that was glowing violet red. She began trembling and moaning uncontrollably as her face became completely red. Upon seeing it, Issei panicked, since he had completely forgotten the connection that he and Zest had. Azazel, who also saw the marking, was also surprised since he knew what marking meant, but surprised Issei and Zest formed that kind of contract since it was considered illegal in the supernatural world. Azazel. Eyes narrowed. The Master Servant Pact. It was then Issei quickly ran over to Zest and picked her up bridle, although this caused Dark-Skinned Rabbit Demoness moan in pleasure, which concerned Issei since what was happening to her was that bad. Issei. Serious, forgive me Zest, I had completely forgotten about our Master Servant Pact and the curse that comes with it. Asia. Gasped curse. Zest. Moans in pleasure. Ah. Pants while blushing. It is not your fault Issei-sama, the fault was mine, since I didn't follow your orders and as such I must pay the price for it. Moans in pleasure. Ahhh. Issei. Eyes narrowed. Him serious, I promise to make it go away soon. Zest. Looks to the others, I'll be right back. It was then Issei went upstairs while still carrying Zest in his arms, all the leaving Asia as to what was going on and what did this Master Servant Pact that Issei was speaking of and what did the curse mean. As if her prayers were being answered, her thoughts were answered when Azazel spoke with both seriousness and curiosity. Azazel. Serious, O Amaterasu, as his godmother, cares to tell me why your godson entered a Master Servant Pact when we all know that it is considered illegal. Amaterasu. Sighs, I should have known you would have recognized it at first glance. Azazel. Serious, of course, both myself and others fallen angels in the Gregory have been studying the mechanics around the Master Servant Pact as a way to not only help reproduce our numbers but also our fighting strength. Asia. Curious, what is a Master Servant Pact? Azazel. Curious, Sighs. Serious, the Master Servant Pact is ancient magic used by old demons, devils, that ties the souls of two people together, which also makes them aware of one another's locations. It was this magic in particular that was what made the foundation for the evil pieces made by Ajuka Beelzebub, since a lot of how evil pieces work is similar to that of the Master Servant Pact. In a way similar to how you devils send out those flyers to help make pacts with humans, the evil pieces are essentially an easy bypass to make a Master Servant Pact. Asia. Shocked while putting her hands over her chest. It is. Azazel. Nods. Yes it is, but of course there are some pros and cons from the evil pieces and the actual Master Servant contract. Asia. Curious, like what? Zest. Moans in pleasure. Nyhh. Everyone. Confused. Huh? Zest. Moans in pleasure. Yes master, please punish this stupid servant of yours. Everyone downstairs were both startled and shocked at what was happening to Zest, and upstairs, although everyone had a different reaction. Amaterasu couldn't but put her head down and cry comedically in that her sweet and innocent nephew was being a sexual deviant. Ishtar, though maintaining her stoic expression, couldn't help but feel jealous and sexually frustrated that Zest was getting all of Issei's love and attention, and the fact he was completely conscious and aware of what he was doing added more to her frustration. Azazel couldn't but laugh since despite serious and stoic nature earlier he was doing something that went against his nature. All the while Asia became 50 shades of red on what Issei was doing to Zest, but she was also surprised since she didn't think Issei would be that kind of pervert like Akeno-san. Asia. Completely red. What is going on? Azazel. Chuckles. That would be one of the cons of the Master Servant Pact. Asia. Shocked. What? Azazel. Smirks. Well, you see, when the Master Servant Pact is made, a curse is placed on the servant so that it wouldn't deny or betray its master. Now the type of curse the servant will receive is dependent on the magic nature that was used from the Master Servant Pact. From what I just saw, this kind of curse is a Zest. Moans in pleasure. Master, what are you now? Azazel. Sweat drops. A succubus curse. Asia. Blushes nervously. A succubus. Azazel. Nods yes, which now that I think about it, it does make sense since the succubus race are the only kind of devils that still use Master Servant Pact. But what I'm curious about is who did have to make the Master Servant Pact and which succubus faction that they belong to. Asia. Confused. Wait, there are more than one succubus race. Azazel. Curious. Sighs. Serious. That's right, you are still fairly new to this side of the supernatural, and I hardly would have given you the time to teach you some of things given your position. But if I'm going to explain to you what I'm talking about, then I will need to give you a brief history of the Devil Civil War. It was then Azazel gave a brief history of the Devil Civil War that took place after the Great War, in which the Devil race was split into two separate factions, with there being the old Satan faction, who were led the descendant of the original Devil Kings. Then there was the new Satan faction, who were led by the remaining 72 pillars, in which the outcome of that war was in favor of the new Satan faction, in which the four generals have helped turn the tide of war in their favor, became the new Satans, with Ria's older brother Surzich's being one of them. Azazel. Curious. So you get it now? Asia. Nods yes I do, confused, but what does it have to do with the succubuses? Azazel. Serious. Well, as you probably know, all succubus originated from the original succubus, Lilith. Asia. curious Adam's first wife. Azazel nods, who later became the wife of the original Satan Lucifer and was the mother of all devils. You see, when the devil race was being divided, there was controversy amongst the succubus clans on whose side to choose for the sake of their survival, as well as their moral conflicts. Asia? Curious moral conflicts. Azazel nods yes. As you know, after the Great War, the succubus race took a huge toll when it came to casualties, in which they became an endangered race, which right now could be at the risk of extinction. When this realization came about, a lot of higher class succubus decided that they needed to change their ways to ensure their survival. All the while other succubus disagreed and believed that they needed to change, since it would be completely denying their nature. From that two succubus factions were formed, which were the New Lilith faction and the Old Lilith faction. Asia? Curious, so what are the differences between the two factions? Azazel serious. Well, similar to the New and Old Satan factions, the Old Satan faction liked to follow the old ways, which is to seduce men and completely drain them of their life force without any concern. But with the New Lilith it's a bit more different, in which first a succubus finds someone known as their mate of destiny. Asia? Confused, mate of destiny? Azazel serious, which is that the succubus finds the one man in which they truly love the succubus in question and is willingly giving up bits of their life force in order for that succubus to survive. From what I've heard, succubuses who have their mate of destiny have received greater power from their life forces compared to those who just casually drained any man they fancy. To the point that it rivals the power of an ultimate class devil, but sadly that is not always the case, in which even some succubuses from the New Lilith faction tend to sleep around, but they are more in moderation, in which they will take only the necessary life force from a man in order to survive. A lot of those succubus actually serve as either modern-day escorts and devils who perform sexual acts. Asia took all the information that the governor of the fallen angels had just told her. She was genuinely surprised that beings as succubus were willing to change their ways, even though it was only slightly. This truly made the ex-nun believe that maybe any devil can change their ways to become better people. It was then Azazel looked over to the sun goddess, since he was still curious as to how Issei was able to perform the master-servant contract and who was the succubus that helped him. Azazel serious. O Amaterasu, care to explain how your god's son was able to make a master-servant pact with a succubus's magic? Amaterasu sighs. It all started about 3 years ago when Issei met Azazel raises an eyebrow in curiosity. Zolgir, that guy. Thinking then again it would explain how Zest's figure suits his particular tastes. Eyes widen in realization, but that would mean that Issei. Amaterasu nods yes, Issei was the one who killed him. Azazel serious, but why? Seeing that there was no point in hiding it, and that if she knew her god's son, then he would have just told Azazel anyway. Thus Amaterasu explained how Issei and Zest met, in which it started how Issei found a lead to where Mundus was hiding and him and Zolgir working together. The sun goddess explained how in the beginning that they were enemies and fought, but when Issei saw that she was just doing as she was told and that she didn't have any choice, he spared her. That when Zest herself was just one of many copies for Zolgir to make his perfect plaything, she felt so hollow and lost, since she was made to be nothing more than an object to be thrown away. It was then she went on to explain after Zolgir's death, Issei's found his journal in which he found out the real reason why he made a deal with Mundus, which was to learn the secrets of fully bringing the dead back to life in order to bring back his dead wife. But each time he made a copy it was a complete failure, which eventually drowned him in a sea of endless pleasure in which he could never escape from. Finally she explained after the battle, Zest asked Issei to allow her to serve him, to which Issei denied and just told her to find and forge her own path. But the rabbit demon essentially begged Issei to please take her in, since she had to serve someone without someone to serve or call the master she might have just killed herself. In which, not wanting someone with great potential to become stronger to be taken out so easily, as well as not wanting to be the cause of unnecessary death, Issei reluctantly agreed to become her new master. To which Zest highly suggested forming a master-servant pact in order to prove her loyalty to Issei, in which they contacted a succubus to help perform the ritual. Azazel serious. I see, so that's what happened. So do you know who was the succubus that helped Issei and Zest perform the pact? Amaterasu serious. One of the higher-ups from the New Lilith faction, Ajiha Kurono. Azazel shocked. Her of all people? Asia curious. Do you know her? Azazel sighs in exasperation. Yeah, she is a fairly powerful succubus and is one of the founding members of the New Lilith faction. From what I've heard, her daughters are fairly powerful themselves, with her oldest daughter being able to already contend with a low-tier ultimate class devil. As Azazel was taking in this new information, the sounds of steps coming down from the stairs got everyone's attention. Coming back to the kitchen were both Issei and Zest, although Zest's face was completely red, but her expression told another story, since the woman in question was smiling and the color of her collar had become crimson red. Issei Sigh, sorry if I took so long, but looks at everyone quizzically, huh? Everyone was currently looking at Issei weirdly, which confused the white-haired boy, but it didn't take Issei long to figure out why they were looking at him in such a way. This of course caused him to blush out of complete embarrassment. He didn't think of putting up a sound barrier when he was trying to make Zest submit. Issei blushes nervously while scratching the back of his head. I probably should have put up a sound barrier, huh? Asia blushes nervously. Issei-san, I didn't know you were like a Keno-senpai. Issei panics. It's not like that, I swear, Asia-chan. It's just the only way for me to help Zest and get rid of the curse. Azazel chuckles. Could have fooled me. Smirks with one eye closed. I mean, you may be your father's son, but you are still half demon, and demons tend to be sadistic in nature. So who's to say your demonic heritage taking root when you make her submit? Issei eyes twitching in annoyance. I'm about to fully unleash my demonic heritage if you keep talking. Azazel gulps nervously. Issei sighs in annoyance. Serious now, with that out of the way, I need to start packing up and leave this town for good. Azazel Amaterasu shocked. What? Amaterasu concerned. But why, Oigo-kun? Issei serious, because what happened with Rias just shows that no matter where I go I will be sought after, whether I am the son of Sparda or the Red Dragon Emperor. Eyes narrowed in sadness. Even now I still desire the quiet and peaceful life I almost had, even though I knew it was just a blissful and short-lived dream. Amaterasu concerned. Then come back with me in Takamagahara, you'll be safe there, and I know Susanoo and Tsukiyomi would love to have their Oigo-san be with them again. Issei smiles sadly. As much as I want to see Susanoo and Tsukiyomi Oji-san again, I just can't. It will put not only you three, but also the entire Shinto pantheon in danger. Once the pantheons find out the Red Dragon Emperor left the Devil faction and joined the Shinto faction out of nowhere, then it will raise suspicions and might cause conflict between your factions and the Devils. Once word gets out that I'm the son of Sparda, they might see the Shinto faction as a rising superpower within the supernatural world, and some factions may take hostile action. Amaterasu concerned. You don't know that. Issei serious. Azazel, am I wrong? Azazel sighs in annoyance. If I wasn't here and knew about your backstory, then I would no doubt might see the Shinto faction as a possible threat to my faction, just for the sole reason alone that you are with them. Serious, you kids are essentially a wild card. Just the fact you killed Mundus when you were only 15 years old shows that you could no doubt be considered a threat to any faction. The fact that the blood of the legendary Dark Knight runs through your veins, as well as having the power of one of the two heavenly dragons, just shows you have the power to flip this universe 100 times over. But yes, you are correct in which this might raise some hostilities between the Devils and Shinto faction, especially since the majority of the Devil race might think you should belong and fight for them. But I would definitely see Surziches and the other Satans trying to make some kind of deal in order to avoid bloodshed, but it might no doubt end up with you still being with the Devils. As for the other races and pantheons, it's hard to say, but no doubt might see you as an automatic threat and try to take you out before you reach your full potential. Issei serious. Now do you see, Opa-chan? I cannot risk belonging to any faction, since all it would do would just cause unnecessary chaos and might spark a war. Amaterasu sheds tears. I just don't want to lose you again, Ice-kun. Ever since you were just a boy, I have seen you as the son I never had, and I already felt I failed you. I wasn't there when you and your mother needed me when those demons attacked, and when that fallen angel killed you and forced you to come back to this crazy world. At that last part, Ishtar's face became slightly grim because she also failed at being there with Issei, since she knew about Issei's date with the fallen angel Rainer, and as his future wife she should have intervened. But she was afraid of not only of causing a scene and forcefully break Issei's seals, but also the fact she was trying to keep a low profile, since even though her older sister still was active in the supernatural world, she didn't want all that attention, especially with the amount of horny men who would only want her for body. But Issei was different, and even though he was only 13 when they first met, he didn't care about her beauty or was affected by her charms. At the time, the brown-haired boy only saw her for her, and that was the initial catalyst which made the goddess fall in love with the boy in the first place. Since all she wanted most of all was a man who loved her for her, and not her beauty, which took her a few thousand years to figure that out, and she inwardly believed that's what the man she thought she loved was trying to tell her, but due to her arrogant and spoiled nature she wouldn't listen. Upon seeing his godmother shedding tears, Issei held Amaterasu in a tight embrace, in hopes he could hopefully ease her worries and guilt. Issei said, and I know it must be hard for you, Opa-chan. But you know deep down that this must happen in order for things to spiral out of control. Smiled sadly, but if it's any constellation, you have been a wonderful mother figure, and if it wasn't you making sure that my vengeance didn't completely consume me, then I would have become an evil dragon a long time ago. Amaterasu sniffles. I know, I just hate seeing you go away. Just like every time you went off to look for a lead on Mundus, my poor heart would not rest, worried that you would never return. Issei. Sad and I know and I'm sorry Oba-chan, but know this. It was then Issei whispered into Amaterasu's ear, which made the sun goddess widen her eyes in shock. She then looked up to the white-haired boy, as if to confirm what he said was true, and that she wasn't just hearing things. Amaterasu. Shocked Ice-kun, are you serious? Issei. Smiled sadly I promise. Amaterasu. Wiping away her tears in that case serious just promise me that you'll be safe, okay? Issei. Smiled softly I promise, Oba-chan. But that being said Amaterasu said her goodbyes to both Issei and the rest of his group and left in a magic circle back to Takamagahara. This made Azazel curious since what did the son of Sparda say to the Shinto sun goddess to Azazel? Curious what did you say to her to calm her down? Issei. Serious none of your concern, Azazel, it's a family matter. Looks to Asia. Asia? Curious yes, Issei-san. Issei. Serious I want to ask you something. Asia? Curious what is it? Issei. Serious do you wish to be human again? That's it guys. Thanks for watching and supporting us. See you in the next part.